Lord of the Apocalypse, I start with a level 10 unit. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251. Finally, at the end of Suyi's field of vision, a touch of blue appeared. That's sea level. Blue sea level. As the distance got closer, the endless sea area appeared in front of Suyi. It is worth mentioning that there are also many territories around the coast located everywhere, tenaciously surviving. Leader, I suggest that we take a rest before going to sea, or wait a while. When we reach the sea, there is no place to rest even if we want to rest. Being reminded by the Golden Tree Demon King, Suyi thought about it to even let the Blazing Fall find a high ground in the jungle below and start resting. By the way, he fed Blazing with a lot of food after a few hours. The time is almost up. Only then did Suyi set off again with the Golden Tree Demon King. This time, Suyi let Zonlian go straight to the surface of the sea. At the same time, I began to search for the small island that the Golden Tree Demon King said, leading to the secret realm of plants. The Golden Tree Demon King scanned the surrounding sea while trying to recall the memories in his mind. Want to remember something? Unfortunately, what it can recall is really limited in the end. The three guys spent hours idling on the surface of the ocean. The existence of the island has never been found. This made Suyi frown a little, and thought to himself, this time, I won't return in vain. But at this moment, the Golden Tree Demon King sitting behind Suyi seemed to have sensed something, and stood up abruptly. As a result, its big tree crown was blown by the strong wind, and it almost fell off from the blazing back. Fortunately, Suyi had quick eyes and quick hands, and grabbed that guy. What's wrong? Did you find anything? Suyi asked. The Golden Tree Demon King nodded, stretched out the vine, and pointed in one direction. Over there, fly over there. Suyi followed the direction pointed by the Golden Tree Demon King. Nothing, just an ocean. But this is the road pointed by the Golden Dryad King. There must be some unusual places. Therefore, Suyi didn't think too much, and let Qilai fly in the direction pointed by the Golden Tree Demon King. Soon, the three guys saw the location of a small island. It's a small island. I can feel it. There is something similar to me on the small island. It should be there. The Golden Dryad King is beaming with joy. Suyi also breathed a sigh of relief, letting Qilai fly over and land at the same time. Most of the setting sun in the west has fallen below the sea level. It's going to be dark soon. After flying fiercely for 7 or 8 hours, I was too tired and needed to rest, so landing on that small island is the best choice. Soon, Qilai brought Suyi and the Golden Tree Demon King to the sky above the island. This small island is not large in size, but the vegetation is beyond common sense. All of a sudden, Qilai couldn't find a place to stay. In the end, I had no choice but to choose a place at random, blow the vegetation away with the wind, and then land. Chapter 377. Ghost Vine. Boom. Blazing had just landed, and Suyi hadn't had time to jump off its back. Suddenly, he noticed something strange in the surrounding dense jungle. A dense and rapid rustling sound came to mind, and it became louder and closer. Suyi frowned a little. The next moment, in the jungle beside Qilai, dozens of black shadows suddenly appeared like a spirit snake, with a slender and dexterous body. It swayed rapidly in the air and attacked the blazing body. Suyi's face changed slightly. He knew what those things were. They are really vines. That's right, they are vines, the same as those vines that Suyi brought Fang Yun and Duan Qinglian encountered in Qingyun Canyon. They are also one of the arms. Although their roots cannot move, their vine bodies can swim like spirit snakes and attack the enemy just like it is now. These vines with a diameter of even more than 20 centimeters are entangled and rush towards this side. Quite a few of them hit blazing body directly when a huge force came. Even if it was blazing, with a thick dragon scale body shield, it was pulled back 2 steps, and roared in the air. Suyi made a decisive decision immediately. Order, use dragon's breath, burn them. After Qilai heard the order, he didn't hesitate. He opened his mouth and spewed out a mouthful of dragon's breath. Hurrah! Hot flames spewed out from the blazing mouth, and then swept towards the surroundings. Those approaching vines were forced back by the flames. What's more, the wooden body was directly ignited, making a crackling and burning sound. After many vines were ignited, there were several shrill and sharp screams from the depths of the jungle, which made Suyi's scalp tingle. The Golden Tree Demon King has already jumped off Blazing's back, scanned the surrounding situation, and said, "This is the ghost vine, but for some reason, it has become much stronger than the ordinary ghost vine." Suyi didn't speak, but directed Qilai to force all the annoying guys around to retreat. After burning dozens of vines, those ghost vines retreated. The surroundings are safe. Suyi also jumped off Blazing's back and looked at the Golden Tree Demon King. Is it related to the entrance of the plant's secret realm? The Golden Tree Demon King hesitated for a moment, then nodded. It's possible. Then, as if thinking of something, he continued, in the secret realm of plants, ghost vines are almost everywhere. They will attack any living creature that passes through their range of perception, and then tie them up to absorb the nutrients in the living body for self-growth. Hearing this, Suyi felt a little hesitant. There are ghost and demon vines everywhere in the plant's secrets. Do you want to be so ruthless? Although these guys are not powerful, they are 10. Imagine what will happen to you when hundreds or thousands of snake-like vines attack you. If you are entangled, what awaits you is definitely not a good result. This was what Suyi was most worried about. The Golden Tree Demon King looked up at the already dark sky. I suggest, take a rest tonight and find the entrance tomorrow. Suyi didn't object just now. He has tried the power of the ghost vine. God knows how many more of these there are on this small island. Secondly, they still don't know where the entrance to the plant mysteries. It will be more difficult to find at night rather than that. It would be better to just take a rest, get back your strength and wait for tomorrow. Blazing light a fire nearby to prevent the ghost vine from attacking. Suyi ordered. This is the only way he can think of to prevent the ghost vine from getting close to him. But as soon as the words came out, they were stopped by the Golden Tree Demon King. No, it's not necessary. Please take the Lord back into your ring. I can block the Lord's breath, so that the ghost vines can't find us. Suyi raised his brows. The Golden Tree Demon King still has this kind of ability, but think about it. After all, it is a hero template in the plant arms. It has some special abilities, so it's not too much? It's strange that it doesn't have any. Thinking of this, Suyi said, that's fine too. As he said that, he didn't show politeness to the Golden Tree Demon King, and directly put Blazing back into the arms ring, and the Golden Tree Demon King also took action at this moment. I saw it found a fairly peaceful place after standing still. The tree roots on the legs seemed to have life, piercing into the soil one by one, drilling deeper. At the same time, the crown of the tree above the head is also rapidly becoming larger and becoming denser. Not long after, the Golden Tree Demon King grew into a towering tree, the dense canopy, the trunk that needs to be embraced by several people, and the countless green vines hanging down from the branches from a distance. It is no different from a real big tree. Leader, come up, you will rest here tonight. The sound of the Golden Tree Demon King came, then stretched out a few vines, gently rolled up Suyi, and put it on a hammock woven by it. This hammock is woven from vines. Although it is rickety, it is still comfortable to sleep on. After making sure that there was no danger around, Suyi closed his eyes. This night, as the Golden Tree Demon King said, nothing happened. No ghost vines appeared. No danger appeared. The only thing that appeared was a few beasts passing under the tree in the middle of the night, but those guys didn't seem to notice Suyi's existence, and just left. So, Suyi rested very well this night. It's time for the next day. The rising sun rises from the sea level in the east and sprinkles its brilliance on the earth. Suyi came out of the hammock woven by the Golden Tree Demon King, scanned the surrounding environment. After finding nothing, he summoned Blaze, prepare to overlook the entire island from the sky. Hoping to find something, the Golden Tree Demon King also pulled out his roots from the soil, and turned into walkable appearance before, followed by Suyi on the blazing back. With a shake of the blazing wings, the huge body soared into the air, and flew into the air in a short time. Chapter 378 Thorns of Thorns. Exploring spirit flowers. It was already dark when we arrived at the island yesterday, so Suyi couldn't see the whole picture of the island at this moment. It was morning, and the light was good enough to overlook the entire island clearly. The area is not large, but the whole is covered by dense vegetation. Chapter 252. From the outside, you can't see an inch of land on the small island, but you can see all the green and dense tree crowns. Have to say, this is weird. Well, did you find anything? Suyi asked the Golden Tree Demon King. This guy has closed his eyes, and seems to be sensing something soon. It pointed to the other side of the island. Go over there and have a look. Suyi patted Blazing's head, and the latter understood, turned around and flew towards the direction pointed by the Golden Tree Demon King. Soon, Suyi and the others reached the other end of the laughing path. Here, Suyi saw something unusual. It was a tree, a surprisingly remarkably large tree. It stands on the edge of the island. The huge canopy swayed gently with a sea breeze. The huge tree trunk is more than 10 meters in diameter. If I'm not wrong, this should be the entrance. The Golden Giant King pointed to the big tree. Suyi turned around and entered. It was a tree, but there were no other clues at the moment, so Suyi had no choice but to order Chi-Lai to go down and have a look. With his blazing wings closed, he took Suyi and the Golden Tree Demon Dynasty to fly towards the big tree. It may be dangerous, be careful, the Golden Giant King reminded. Sure enough, When the blazing dropped to a certain height, the ghost vine has appeared again. These guys seem to be everywhere on the island at this moment. It climbed up from the canopy of the tree on the small island, and rushed towards blazing. Fortunately, Chila had already prepared, and when he opened his mouth, he would breathe out the dragon's breath. Her scorching dragon breath swept across, setting a lot of vines on fire. Then it found the opportunity to get close to the big tree and landed this time. The main force that attracted more ghost vines, densely packed, like tarsal maggots, towards the blazing. Suya crazily pounced. Suya had no choice but to open the fearless domain. In an instant, blazing's strength doubled, and the power of the dragon's breath also doubled. The ghost vines approaching were all forced to retreat by the dragon's breath. Suya found the right time, dragged the Golden King and jumped off the burning back, pointing at Fang's big tree and said, "Where's the entrance?" The Golden Tree Demon King didn't speak, just walked to the big tree on his own, compared his eyes, and then began to mutter something. Not long after, a bright light bloomed on the big tree trunk in front. Immediately afterwards, a portal appeared. "This is the entrance, Lord. Are we going in?" The Golden Giant King pointed to the teleportation doorway on the tree trunk. Suyi was overjoyed, and nodded abruptly. "You're here, of course you have to go in, after all." He took back blazing into the arm ring. Then, together with the Golden Tree Demon King, they rushed into the portal with a whoosh. The two figures disappeared. Wait a minute. When the moment appeared, Suyi had already appeared in another world. It's a jungle, a very dense jungle. The surrounding air is even more incomparably fresh, and taking a breath makes one feel refreshed. "This is the secret of plants," Suyi murmured as soon as the words fell. The voice of the Golden Tree Demon King sounded beside him. "Leader, be careful." As he said that, the vines on the crown of the tree suddenly became thicker and longer, wrapped around Suyi, and pulled towards him. The next moment, a thorn stabbed out from where Suyi was standing just now. It then retracted back into the ground. Suyi's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly asked, "What is this?" The Golden Tree Demon King looked around and said, "This is a thorn of thorns. It is the root of a kind of plant. It can walk underground. When it finds a target, it will stab out from the ground at a very fast speed and impale the target." The corners of Suyi's eyes twitched. "Shit, just came here and got off his horse. It seems that there is something in this plant mystery. I summon blazing, let it take us into the air," Suyi said, but it was stopped by the Golden Tree Demon King. "Leader, please don't do this. Don't summon blaze unless it is absolutely necessary. In the plant secret realm, there are hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of plant-type troops. They are all over the secret realm and have very sharp the perception system. Once the animal units appear here, it will instantly attract their attention, and then launch an attack." When Suyi heard it, she felt it made sense. After all, when I landed on the island before, I have already verified this setting. "Then how do we move forward?" Suyi asked. The Golden Tree Demon King shook his long vines, and smiled. "Leave this to me. I can temporarily block your breath, so that they can't find you." Suyi shrugged. "Well, that's the only way to go." Afterwards, under the leadership of the Golden Tree Demon King, he slowly walked towards the depths of the plant mystery. According to the Golden Tree Demon King, such things as the spirit of the land can only be found in the secret realm of plants, and in the plant secret realm, it is not easy to find this kind of thing. Still need to find it slowly until you find a special plant. You can find the spirit of the land under the plant. This special plant is named Tangling Flower, a true plant with no attack power. It has only one function, that is, it can explore and perceive the specific location of energy, for example, discovering mineral deposits, discovering the spirit of the land, and so on. Therefore, the first step for the Golden Tree Demon King and Suyi is to find this kind of spirit-exploring flower, and then proceed to the next step with a goal in mind. The two began to wonder in this plant secret. I have to say, this plant mystery is really beautiful. It is more beautiful than all the secret realms that Suyi has been to before. All kinds of plants, growing in the jungle, bright flowers, peculiar shapes, and various fruits. Chapter 379, The Spirit of the Land and the Spirit Corn. Second watch for subscription. Beg for flowers, beg for votes, beg for everything. However, the more beautiful and eye-catching things are often the more dangerous. Walking in the secret realm of plants, Suyi has verified this truth many times. That is to say, he was protected by the Golden Tree Demon King, covering his aura. Otherwise, if he appeared here as a human, he might attract dozens, or even hundreds of plants to attack in an instant. At that time, it will be dangerous. The two moved forward all the way, although the speed was not fast, but it was still safe. Although the two are also moving, they will also attract the attention of plants. However, the Golden Giant King is also a plant, and he is also the king of plants. The aura it emits blends with the surrounding plants, which can lower their vigilance. Secondly, In the plant's secret territory, some powerful plant arms can originally move therefore. When a tree moves in the plant's secret territory, it is not really a strange thing. On the contrary, it is quite normal. The two of them kept walking forward together for an unknown amount of time. Finally, in the soft cry of the Golden Tree Demon King, the two stopped. Leader, look quickly, it's the spiritual exploration flower. Suyi's expression changed, and he followed the direction pointed by the Golden Tree Demon King. Sure enough, this little flower grew in the jungle ahead. Strangely, the color of this little flower is not only one, but colorful, which looks extremely weird. We went quietly, the Golden Giant Dominion. Suyi nodded, and the two guys approached Tenlinghu quietly. In the end, the Golden Giant King managed to cover the little thing under his canopy. Take root here. Countless emerald green vines hung down, covering Suyi's figure. In this way, from the outside, the plants would not be able to detect Suyi's breath and existence. Dig from here, and you should find something. The Golden Giant Dominion. Suyi nodded, sat aside and waited, watching the Golden Tree Demon King stab his roots into the ground, then dug out the soil and piled it around. Soon, a big pit appeared. Then, the Golden Tree Demon King expanded and deepened the pit. After fighting for 20 minutes, the Golden Tree Demon King suddenly shook the tree, and immediately pulled out a stone from the ground. It is the size of a millstone, and it is stained with a lot of dirt. The exposed part is crystal clear and looks extremely extraordinary. Spirit of the land, this is the spirit of the land. The Golden Tree Demon King let out a soft cry, and there was unconcealable ecstasy in his words. Suyi walked over and threw an energy test at the big stone. Soon, information about this big rock appeared in his mind. Spirit of the land description, a kind of rich and strange stone, buried deep in the ground, can continuously release energy and change the surrounding soil quality. Using this oil quality to plant crops will more than double the crop yield. Chapter 253. Seeing this description, Suyi's breathing became a little short. Good things, really good things, let's see if there are any more, Suyi urged. The Golden Tree Demon King shook his head. I've already seen it, just this one. Suyi's face froze, he hesitated for a moment, and then said, how many spiritual fields can be increased by one piece? About 20 yuan. The Golden Giant King replied. The corners of Suyi's eyes twitched. There are hundreds of spirit fields in the Tree Demon's territory. How many land spirits do you have to find? But after thinking about it, this thing can at least double the yield of crops. Suyi felt passionate again. Whether the Sky Alliance has enough trade in the later stage depends entirely on this thing. Then look for more, try to find as many as possible, Suyi said. Then he received the spirit of this land into his lord's space. The Golden Tree Demon King naturally had no objections. Pull out the roots that were buried deep in the ground, and then move forward with Suyi. On this day, the two wandered around a very large area, found 3 more land spirits. In addition, the two made some other discoveries. That is the new crop. Yes, new crops. It is corn, but it is not ordinary corn. But the corn after digitization, each cob is about a meter long. The corn kernels on it are the size of a fist, crystal clear, firm and plump, and it is gratifying to look at. Spiritual corn description, wild spiritual corn can be eaten directly to fill the stomach. Seeing these corn cobs, Suyi was a little tempted. Good stuff. This is it. If it can be brought back to the Tree Demon territory and cultivated, the output will definitely be higher than it is now. The Golden Tree Demon King also confirmed this matter. Therefore, Suyi was not polite, and directly broke off all the corn cobs and stuffed them into the Lord's space, just waiting to return to the Tree Demon territory. Take out these things, and then hand them over to the Tree Demons for cultivation and planting. Perhaps, in a few months, spiritual corn will be produced in the Tree Demons territory. Maybe the output will be higher than that of Lingmei. After harvesting the wild Lingmei here, it was getting dark. Suyi did not continue to search for the spirit of the land. Instead, he found a relatively safe place with a Golden Tree Demon King start to rest. In order to avoid attracting the attention of the surrounding plants, Suyi did not light a bonfire. Instead, he directly took out some spiritual fruits from the Lord's space and ate them. There is no way. One thing more is worse than one thing less. Although Suyi has the strength to destroy these plant arms, however, this is a plant's secret realm. And it is not an exaggeration to say that there are millions of plant arms. Pull one hair and move the whole body. Suyi doesn't want to see the result of being chased and beaten by millions of ghost vines, so give me some advice. In this way, under the protection of the Golden Tree Demon King, Suyi passed the night safely. The next day, the two guys continued to search for the existence of the land spirit in the jungle, repeating what they had done yesterday. The thing can increase the yield of crops. Naturally, the more the better. Chapter 380. The walking trinkard. For the next few days, Suyi and the Golden Tree Demon King spent time in this plant secret. On the one hand, it is to find enough land spirits, And on the other hand, it is to find something worth taking away, for example, new varieties of food, or some medicinal materials in the jungle of the plant mystery. You can see some medicinal materials with strange effects from time to time, and these things are very precious whether you take it back or use it yourself or give it to the troops. You can improve your strength in a small range. Therefore, when Suyi encountered these medicinal materials along the way, he would carefully collect them. Time flies. It is already 5 days later. In 5 days, Suyi and the Golden Tree Demon King have explored half of the plant's secret realm. The spirit of the land has also found a lot, which is almost enough to upgrade the spirit fields in the tree demon's territory. Therefore, Suyi decided to leave this plant's secret realm and return to the star field just today. But just when he was about to leave, something happened suddenly. When the two guys were exploring the plant's secrets, they accidentally encountered a group of plants that could also walk. It was a tree guard. Tree guard, tier, 9th tier, 9 level. 6 HP. 360,000 attack power. 13 defense. 15 speed. 35 skill. Vines entangling. Tree guard can summon the vines that grow on him, grow longer. It becomes thicker and entangles the designated target. The entangled target will be restricted in action and will be injected with neurotoxin, causing a lot of damage. Blade knife. Every fallen leaf of the Trent warrior can be a weapon. Wrapped with a strange power, the blade becomes extremely sharp, and then fired, it can cause intensive and huge cutting damage to the target, and cause bleeding effect. Bleeding effect. Lose 2 maximum HP per second. Last for 3 seconds. 3. Cannot be superimposed. Photosynthetic healing. When the Trent warrior is injured, he absorbs the surrounding light as his own healing energy, heals his wounds, and continues to recover life value, recovering 3% of the maximum life value per second, lasting for 10 seconds. 1. The power of the forest. Trent warriors were born in the forest, and only in the forest can they burst out with the strongest combat effectiveness. When fighting in the forest, all attributes will increase by 20%. Description: the forest guards in the plant secrets, wandering in the depths of the plant secrets, maintaining the law and order here, and if they find uninvited guests, they will attack immediately. After reading the information list, Suyi frowned. This turned out to be tier 9 and 9 arms, which is a bit difficult to deal with. His aura has been exposed, and it is useless for the Golden Tree Demon King to cover it up again. At this moment, the Golden Tree Demon King is negotiating with a dozen or so tree warriors, trying to keep them from attacking. Suyi stood aside, although she couldn't understand what the two sides were saying. However, he could roughly see that the tree man didn't seem to want to let Z and the Golden Tree Demon King go. It seems that this battle is inevitable. With the last sentence falling, Wang, shut up. How is it going? Suyi found the right time to ask. The Golden Giant King smiled wryly and shook his head. No matter how I explain it, they still think we are intruders. Suyi was speechless. Well, he had expected this result a long time ago. Sure enough, when the Golden Tree Demon King and Suyi were talking, those Trent warriors had already launched an attack. The freely moving vines turned into spirit snakes and flew towards Suyi. Leader, be careful, the Golden Giant King shouted. Suyi drew out the streamer sword and cut off the attacking vines. Then he touched the arm's ring on his hand. The next moment, blazing flew out of the arm ring. Seeing that Suyi was in trouble, he launched an attack without saying a word. Opening his mouth wide, the fiery dragon's breath spewed out, and then swept across the approaching vines. Were all ignited, turned into coke, and fell to the side. At the same time, Suyi took the Golden Tree Demon King up onto Blazing's back. Blazing wings fluttered and rose into the sky, but because of the movement just now, the entire forest was in a state of restlessness. The order for the Trent warriors to attack all the attacking plant units have awakened. All kinds of attacks were released towards Suyi, and blazing vines, blade knives, burst fruits, and thorns emerged one after another, making Suyi's expression change. Leader, the situation is not good. The entire plant's secret realm has discovered our existence. The Golden Giant King reminded him from the side. Suyi looked around, frowning slightly. It's really weird. A view of the forest below from above. Almost half of the trees in the plant's secret realm started to move at the same time. The situation is a little critical. Forget it. Let's go out now, Suyi said. At the same time, he gave Blazing an order to retreat. The latter understood, raised some flying heights, and then flew towards the entrance. But after arriving at the place, Suyi realized the seriousness of the matter. The entrance is blocked. There were hundreds of Trent warriors stationed in front of the entrance to the secret realm at the same time. There are also some powerful plant arms. It's like a deja vu to trap Suyi and others here. Damn, is this trying to force me to make a move? Suyi clenched his fists without hesitation. He directly summoned more flame dragons. It turned into a sharp knife and stabbed towards the exit. Chapter 254. Facts have proved that it was a very correct decision for Suya to bring the flame dragon to the plant's secret realm. These guys have a unique advantage in fighting plant arms because 99% of plants are afraid of fire, and the attack method that the flame dragon is best at is precisely the flame. In this way, Suya will have the absolute upper hand under the attack of more than a dozen flame dragons. The Trents and other plant troops stationed at the entrance began to retreat steadily. The wooden body was ignited, burned, and made a crackling sound. Wait. Find the right opportunity to evacuate. Don't love to fight. Suya ordered. Chapter 381. The undead army surrounding the gold mine. After all, this is a secret place of plants, and it is someone else's territory. Although Suya can gain the upper hands in the battle, there is no guarantee that he will always have the upper hand. So, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, the best option is to leave quickly. Blazing and other flame dragons understood what Suya meant, and began to increase their offensive. Breathe out the breath of the dragon, and prepare to forcibly burn a way out of these blocking plants. Sure enough, under the uninterrupted attack of the flame dragons, the plant arms intercepted at the exit finally appeared to be defeated. A defense gap is emerging and expanding rapidly. Suya saw the right opportunity and rode blazing through the defensive gap. Swap positions with those gathered plant units. Then he took back the other dragons except blazing into the troop ring. Finally, when approaching the exit portal, take blazing away with a whoosh, the bodies of Suya and the Golden Tree Demon King fell into the exit, the portal, and disappeared in an instant. Seeing the intruders disappear, the various plant troops gathered seemed a little frustrated, but there is nothing to do because among them, a large part of the units cannot leave the plant's secret realm for a lifetime. So seeing Suya and the Golden Tree Demon King leave again, I can only watch on the other side. Suya and the Golden Tree Demon King left the plant mystery and appeared on the previous small island, but here, it's not safe. Perhaps the things in the plant's secret territory have been leaked. Suya and the Golden Tree Demon King were attacked as soon as they appeared. In desperation, Suya had no choice but to summon the blazing and other flame dragons again, push back all kinds of plants that attacked them. Finally, he rode blazing and flew into the sky. View of the island from the air still as lush as ever. After the matter was over, Suya didn't have any further thoughts, and Dang even rode back on blazing. First returned to the mainland, and then head towards the direction of the Star Domain. After several days, Suya finally returned to Hanan City. The first place to go is the gold mine. Fortunately, there are thousands of dragons guarding here, and the gold mine is safe. After making sure there was nothing wrong here, Suya returned to the star field. After resting here for a while, he took the Golden Tree Demon King straight to the Tree Demon territory. After arriving at the Tree Demon's territory, Suya happened to be Suzir, who is picking the spirit fruit. This is a daily compulsory course for the little girl. Pick some ripe, firm and plump spiritual fruits and make them into various foods. At this moment, when she saw Suya and the Tree Demon King coming back, she hurriedly greeted them. How about it? Have you got the spirit of the land? Suzy asked with a big wave of Suya's hand. He took out a piece of land spirit from the Lord's space, and waved it in front of Suzir. Your elder brother will surely succeed if you make a move. Su Kainer took a look and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She thought the spirit of the land was something magical, but now that she saw it, it was just a piece of broken rock. Of course, she thought about it in her heart. If she said it, I'm afraid that what is waiting for her is Suya's brain collapse. Broken stone. Do you know how long it took me to get this kind of broken stone? Do you know what significance this kind of broken stone will have on the territory of the tree demon? Lingshan range of the demon territory. Take out the spirits of the land and pile them together to form a small mountain. Afterwards, the Golden Tree Demon King ordered the tree demons to grind the spirit of the land into powder and then sprinkle it into the spirit field. In this way, the soil quality of the spiritual field can be transformed into a super spiritual field, and the super spirit field is enough to greatly increase the yield of crops. Following the order, the Dryads in the Dryads territory took action one after another, and the division of labor is clear. Half of the Dryads are responsible for grinding the land spirits into powder. The other half of the Dryads are responsible for scattering the ground spirits into various spirit fields. In order to avoid any mistakes, the Golden Tree Demon King was on the scene, acting as the commander-in-chief. Suya, on the other hand, took out a large amount of medicinal materials that he had stored in the Lord's space. Give Suzir some plants that can be planted, and let her find time to plant them in the vegetable garden. For the other ones that cannot be planted, Suya is going to bring them back to the star field. Eat it yourself, or feed it to your troops. After staying in the Dryad territory for a long time, Suya was a little bored, so he returned to the star domain territory first. After washing up, I went back to my room to rest. After all, he has not had a good rest for 5 days. This sleep was quite comfortable. After an unknown amount of time, Suyu was awakened by a knock on the door. He opened his eyes, got up and opened the door. I saw Eve standing outside the door with a panicked expression. The big thing is not good for the undead army. There's an undead army appearing. Seeing Eve's expression, Suyu instinctively had an ominous premonition, and hurriedly asked her what happened. Eve grabbed Suyu's arm. It's urgent. Let's talk as we walk. As she spoke, she dragged Suyu towards the dragon's nest in the star field and ride the dragon and go straight to the gold mine. On the way to the gold mine, Eve talked about the current situation. An hour ago near the gold mine, some undead creatures fatally appeared. The level is not high, and the number is not large. At first Eve didn't care, but told the lords on the defense line of the gold mine to step up their precautions, and if these undead come into the attack range, just kill them directly. But what Eve didn't expect was that as time went by, the number of undead began to increase until now, that is, in the evening, when the golden crow is slanting westward, the army of undead gathered outside the direction of the gold mine has exceeded 200,000, and this number is still continuously increasing. Only then did Eve realize something was wrong, and hurriedly rode the giant dragon to find Suyu. After listening to Eve's story, Suyu also frowned. It is unreasonable for an army of 200,000 undead to appear suddenly. Suyu remembered that the main city of undead near the gold mine had been cleaned up by himself more than 3 months ago. Chapter 382, Lord of Hell. Angus arrives asking for flowers, asking for tickets, asking for everything. Secondly, even if a new main city of the undead appears, it cannot have an army of 200,000. From any point of view, it reveals that it is unusual. Not long after, the giant dragon has flown over the gold mine. Suyu looked down at the earth from a high altitude, and with the help of the afterglow of the setting sun, he really saw the army of undead gathered outside the defense line of the gold mine. This number is more than 200,000 from Suyu's point of view. It was infinitely close to 300,000. Who on earth, with such a big hand, can make such a big battle? I'm afraid it's not as simple as a simple undead main city. Don't land yet. Let's go over there and have a look. Suyu gave the order and pointed to the rear of the undead army. Eve nodded. She was busy looking for Suyu before, but she didn't go there to check the situation. The giant dragon got the order, flapped its wings, and took Suyu and Eve to fly in the direction Suyu pointed. Not long after, the dim light ended, and Suyu saw something appearing behind the undead army. That was a teleportation gate. Eve obviously saw the existence of the teleportation gate, and immediately let out a soft cry. Transportation gate. Why is there a teleportation gate here? Suyu glanced at it, but he roughly understood the ins and outs of the matter. This portal was obviously just established, and where it connects, it's mostly hell. So, who built it? In Suyu's memory, there is only one person, that is Angus. A few months ago, I took Vulcan, Andre and Banners to hell and had a feud with that guy before leaving. Angus let out a word that he would definitely make Suyu pay the price. It now appears that the price has come. It's a little troublesome this time. Suyu sighed secretly. Eve was a little confused, and hurriedly asked, do you know the origin of this portal? Suyu didn't answer, but said, let's go back first. We'll talk about it when we go back. Chapter 255. After that, he patted the giant dragon under his seat. The latter turned around and started to return. Not long after, he took Suyu and Eve back to the gold mine number 1 territory. When it landed from the sky, Andre happened to be here. He saluted Suyu and asked, leader, have you found anything? Probably Angus. Suyu said. Andre's face changed. Angus. Suyu shook his head. Just guessing. Behind these undead army, there is a portal leading to hell. The purpose of those undead is very clear. As soon as they appear, they go straight here. I guess it should be ordered by Angus. Andre didn't object to Suyu's explanation because when he came back from the plane of hell, he reminded Suyu, say beware of Angus. The guy might fight back. Now it seems that this guy is really here. Then what should we do now? The number of undead army has exceeded 300,000, Eve asked, looking a little confused. She is well aware of the value of the gold mine to Suyu. At the same time, he is also very clear about the horror of the hundreds of thousands of undead army. It is self-evident what will happen if these guys are allowed to break into the defense line of the gold mine. Hearing this, Suyu clenched his fists. It's all here, so we can only fight. In addition, the portal is still working. I can't confirm how many troops Angus sent over, so we have to prepare in advance. Prepare. Hearing this, Andre cheered up. Leader, just make arrangements. Suyu was not polite, and ordered directly, you all gather all the troops in the gold mine defense line and prepare for battle. I will return to the star field and transfer the giant dragon and the spirit of the storm over there. Andre and Eve nodded in agreement. Afterwards, The three of them divided into three groups and began to started to assemble the units of Goldmine number 1 territory at the same time. It also sent a dragon to the galactic territory. Lin Yangtze's galaxy territory of Huxin Island is the only territory in the Sky Alliance that is closer to the Goldmine except for the Starfield territory of the base camp. In this battle, the opponent has sufficient troops, and the Goldmine needs to be fully prepared, and Andre went to Goldmine number 2 territory to summon the giant dragons and undead knights stationed there, and prepare to support the direction of the number 1 territory. Su Yi has observed before that the undead army that invaded the Goldmine this time is mainly concentrated in the defense line of the number 1 territory of the Goldmine in the west. Therefore, in other directions, only a small number of troops need to be placed for surveillance. All other arms should be concentrated on the number 1 territory defense line on Su Yi's side. He has already returned to the Starfield. Time was running out. He quickly summoned all the dragons and storm spirits, and headed towards the Goldmine. After he arrived, Lin Yangtze had already led a large force into the defense line of the Goldmine when she boarded the city wall and saw the army of hundreds of thousands of undead gathered outside the city. The corners of her eyes twitched a few times. So many, no less than 300,000. Su Yi landed beside Lin Yangtze. The corners of her lips curled slightly. "Why are you scared?" Lin Yangtze sniffled. "I'm not afraid if I'm afraid. With Big Brother Su here, there's nothing to be afraid of." Su Yi was a little speechless. What does it mean to have him around? There's nothing to be afraid of. Is he that strong? On the other side, Eve and Andre have also climbed onto the city wall, and the four of them converge. All the arms have been transferred. "Do you need to make other preparations?" Eve asked. Su Yi looked at the undead army in the distance, and shook his head. "I don't need it for now." As soon as his words fell, the sky above the army of undead in the distance and a dark shadow appeared. It was a group of flying troops, escorting something, approaching. Here the fire of soul in Andre's head swayed violently, and he exhaled softly. "It's Angus. It really is him." Su Yi frowned, and looked in the direction of the black shadow. "Sure enough, I saw a large number of gargoyles, carrying a huge throne, and on that throne, there was a man sitting, tilting your head and crossing your legs. You are invincible." "This guy. If not Angus, who else would it be?" Chapter 383, Holy Light Suppression of the Sacred Dragon. Angus sat on the throne, scanning the huge Goldmine in front of him, the corners of whose scarlet lips curled up slightly. A trace of surprise flashed in those pitch-black pupils. "Unexpectedly, there is such a big Goldmine here. It seems that the speed of human development is faster than I imagined." But having said this, Angus' tone suddenly changed, becoming cold, becoming sharp. "However, this place will soon be mine. Ha 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 ha." After the words fell, the gargoyles who raised the throne stopped moving forward, forming a platform in the air for Angus to stabilize his body. Angus was also polite. His eyes swept back and forth in the direction of the gold mine, and finally his eyes fixed on the top of the city, where Su Yi and the others were. "I found it, this time. Let's see where you go." Angus sneered, and he looked at the army behind him. The rate of increase in numbers gradually slowed down. A full 400,000 troops are already in place. This is nearly half of Angus's strength. It believes that with a force of this scale, it is enough to sweep all territories in the current human world. This is its confidence. "But Su Yi, will it be listed here?" "Earl Angus, when will we attack?" Suddenly, another sharp voice sounded behind Angus. It was a necromancer wearing a black cloak, different from ordinary necromancers. This necromancer's black cloak has some blood-red lines, which makes one's scalp tingle. It's called Hawkins, and it's a general under Angus. "I can't stand the sickle in my hand anymore," Hawkins said, walking up to Angus. Angus smiled. "I have already observed that the gold mine in front of me does not have many defensive units, and we have an army of 300,000, which can be crushed casually. Let's get ready and let the army divide half of it, ready to charge." As he spoke, Angus looked up at the sky. The sun has completely set, replaced by a bright moon and countless stars in the sky. They emit white light, illuminating the earth. Night is the time when the undead are most active. During this time period, they can erupt with stronger fighting power, and this is why Angus chooses to attack at night. Upon hearing this, Hawkins bowed to Angus. "Of order, my dear Earl Angus." After saying that, Hawkins flew towards the ground. Looking at its back, Angus said, "Don't let me down." After Hawkins arrived on the ground, he began to allocate troops without saying a word. "Divide the 300,000 troops into two parts, separate apart, to prepare to attack the mine defense line. After everything is ready, the attack begins." Under the dark night, a massive army of undead rushed towards the gold mine. Among them, the arms are of different ranks, and the levels are not uniform. There are 5, 6, and 7 middle-level arms, and there are 8th, 9th, and 9 high-level arms. The number is as high as 150,000. Mighty, galloping in the direction of the gold mine defense line, Suyi, who was standing on the top of the city, saw the army of undead rushing forward, and his face relaxed a little. If your 300,000 troops are all on board, maybe I'm really in danger, but you're too confident, Suyi sneered. Indeed, he is well aware of the defensive strength of the gold mine defense line. Say high or not, say low or low, it is still possible to resist an army of 100 to 200,000, but if it resists an army of more than 300,000, it will be a bit dangerous. The current situation is that Angus is too confident to divide the undead army into two groups. Letting one of them launch an attack reduced Suyi's pressure in a disguised form. In addition, he still has secret weapons waiting for these undead army, guaranteed to easily swallow up the 150,000 army. Ready to fight, Suyi ordered all the people on the city wall took action. Dragon hunters, force of nature, and all long-range attack units climbed onto the city wall, aiming their weapons at the incoming undead army, and the giant dragons lifted off at the same time. The sight of more than 4,000 giant dragons flying into the sky at the same time is frightening. Even Suyi's heart beat faster. Finally, it is the cooperation of Storm Spirit and Mountain Shaker. Mountain Shaker resists in the front, and Storm Spirit places Eye of the Storm in the back. Well, in fact, long before Angus gave the order to attack, Suyi had already let the spirits of the storm plant a lot of Eyes of the Storm on the only way the undead army must pass. There are thousands of Eyes of the Storm, enough to make those guys drink a pot at this moment. With the passage of time, the Eye of the Storm has absorbed enough energy to be detonated at any time. Chapter 256. Those undead army didn't know it, they still rushed forward. Soon, the first army, composed of hellhounds and nether tigers, entered the area covered by the Eye of the Storm. They are faster, bear the brunt of the battle, and the result is death faster. Sure enough, after a large number of hellhounds and nether tigers entered the coverage area of the Eye of the Storm, the Eye of the Storm is activated. A series of explosions began to sound. The undead army that was within the range of the explosion was instantly disrupted. The bombing turned people on their backs, and a large number of troops died tragically. In minutes, the body was cut into pieces by the wind blade generated by the explosion of the Eye of the Storm. Just when the situation was chaotic, the giant dragon that had already flown into the sky also joined the battlefield. The wings trembled, and the huge body swooped down from the air. All kinds of attacks bombarded in the camp of the undead army without money, especially Holy Dragon and Lightning Dragon. The attacks of these two types of giant dragons all have sacred attributes. A ray of holy light went down, blasting dozens of undead into powder in minutes under the attack of the giant dragon and the spirit of the storm. The casualties of the undead army exceeded 50,000 in just a few minutes, and all of this was unexpected by Angus. Chapter 384. The power of the red armored fire ant. At this moment, Angus suddenly stood up from the throne, glaring at the direction of the battlefield. What's going on? How can this human being have so many high-level arms? It was the first confrontation with Suyi in hell. Suyi only took out 100 dragons. Angus was very surprised that that rare 10th tier unit appeared in the hands of a human like Suyi. He believes that this should be Suyi's full strength, but now what he sees is Suyi has more than 4,000 dragons like that. All of them are powerful, brave and good at fighting. In addition, he also has advanced units such as Storm Spirit and Mountain Shaker. This greatly increased the shock in Angus' heart. Fuck, I underestimated you this time. All attack, Angus yelled. The order was passed on quickly, and the other 150,000 undead army stationed at the rear all rectified their bodies and marched towards the battlefield. But when they walked halfway, a sudden change occurred. On the only way that these undead army must pass, the soil on the ground was pushed away, and small fiery red figures appeared on the ground looking at the white limbs passing by constantly. These fiery red little figures opened their mouths and began to bite. What's more, they directly climbed onto the body of the undead army. Open your jaws, take a bite, and spit out the acid in your mouth. Under the strong corrosiveness, small holes began to appear in the bone bodies of the undead. As time goes by, the small hole is expanding, and the life value of the bitten undead army is constantly decreasing. There are quite a few low-level undead units that fell to the ground and were trampled into broken bones by the army of undead behind, and the instigator of all this is the secret weapon that Suyi mentioned before, red armored fire ants. That's right, they are red armored fire ants. After this period of development, and Suyi's careful care, the population of red armored fire ants he placed in the orc secret realm has reached more than 500,000. This time, in order to fight Angus, he specially moved 400 000 red armored fire ants here leave 100,000 guardians to prevent being extinct. There are 400,000 red armored fire ants, and their burrowing speed is terrifying. It took more than 2 hours to dig near the gold mine from outside the secret place of the orcs at this moment, successfully joined the battlefield under the darkness of night, without anyone noticing. They attack the undead army. As I said before, the acidic toxin in the mouth of the red armored fire ant is very threatening to the monsters of the undead series, not to mention these 7th and 8th ranks are dead. Even the bone dragon of the 10th rank, if it falls to these red armored fire ants, it will suffer a great loss. So far, the effect is overwhelming as more and more fire ants break out of the ground. There are also more and more undead being entangled by chi. Then he was bitten to death. The fire ants do damage not by their mandibles, but by their toxins. That fiery, acidic toxin, extremely corrosive. One bite, and a small pit will be corroded in the bony body. Then it does heavy damage. At this moment, the army of undead fell to the ground, just like this. Their health points were worn out one after another, and the scene was successfully noticed by the necromancers. They grabbed some red armored fire ants and flew towards where Angus was in the sky. Earl Angus, something is wrong, we have been attacked. Angus frowned and looked at the necromancer. What's going on? Hearing this, the necromancer took out the red armored fire ant he had caught and put it in front of Angus. It's this kind of little thing that came out of the ground and attacked our army. Bang! As soon as the words fell, the armrest of the Angus throne exploded. Angus, who was on the verge of rage, got up and glared in the direction of the gold mine. Damn humans, they actually used such tricks. The undead mage who reported the message retreated again and again, and did not dare to offend Angus, who was furious. After cursing a few times, Angus took a deep breath. The bat wings behind him reappeared, and with a slight wave, it flew forward. He decided to go out in person, pass my order, launch a general attack, and clear all the enemies that can be seen. Angus' icy voice came out. A dozen or so necromancers who gathered behind him nodded one after another, and then scattered in all directions, flying towards all parts of the battlefield. Angus' order was passed on quickly. The counterattack of the undead begins. Divided into two groups of undead army, the front wave mainly attacked the gold mining territory. The group in the back focused on the red armored fire ants constantly emerging from the ground. These little things are simply too disgusting small in size and hard to spot, but once you get entangled with them, it's another result. The life value is dropping, and the blood cow can't stop it. Fortunately, the undead don't feel pain. Otherwise, the severe pain caused by the red-armed fire ants when they release acidic toxins absolutely let these undead out life painfully. At this moment, the war has reached a white-hot stage. The gold mine defense line, the lords of more than a dozen territories here are all in action, responding to Suyi's call. Board the city wall to block the incoming army of undead. To be honest, this is the first time they have seen such a large army attacking a city. At first, I was a little scared, for fear that the undead army would break through the line of defense. After seeing Suyi's formidable strength, they were relieved, and each of them is in high spirits, constantly organizing arms to kill the invading undead. Masses of undead died crashing. Blue experience points emerge from their bodies, turning into torrents and pouring into the bodies of the soldiers, enhancing their strength. On Suyi's side, he has already mounted blazing and flew into the sky. At the moment it is confronting Angus. It could be seen that Angus was quite angry because he underestimated Suyi's strength, and it was precisely because of underestimating Suyi's strength that the current tragic consequences were caused. Human, your strength is somewhat beyond my expectation, Angus said coldly. His black pupils looked directly at Suyi. Chapter 385. Suyi, I have 5,000 such giant dragons begging for flowers, begging for votes, begging for everything. The corner of the latter's lips curled slightly. Isn't this your usual style? It was like this last time in hell, and it's like this again now. Angus' face changed slightly, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. You look very proud. Suyi shrugged. At least I won't underestimate any opponent. As soon as the words fell, Angus was completely angry. Suyi is simply belittling him in a disguised form. I can't bear it. I can't bear it. Bastard, don't think that you can do whatever you want with a few high-level troops. I will let you know how dangerous this world is, Angus said angrily. Suyi snorted coldly, and put away the smile on his lips. What I want to tell you is that there are high-level arms, and you can really do whatever you want. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Angus heard the words, without further ado, immediately launched an attack on Suyi. His sickly white hands waved, and phantoms of bats flew out of his palms flapping his wings. He rushed towards Suyi. Seeing this, Suyi was completely unafraid immediately. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257. Open the fearless field, sit down. The blazing attribute suddenly doubles. A mouthful of dragon's breath spewed out towards the phantom of the bat that was attacking her. The two sides collided, and the phantom of the bat immediately burnt clean. Angus seemed to have expected this to happen, so he was not discouraged, and then started to attack again. All kinds of attack moves emerge endlessly, but every time, Suyi could block it for a moment. The two fought inextricably in the air-ground battlefield. The battle became more intense. An army of 300,000 undead attacked a gold mine. The first half is resisted by dragons, storm spirits, mountain shakers, and other units. Not only was it difficult to advance an inch, but there were also heavy casualties. Large numbers of undead were killed. Broken bones piled up like a mountain. The necromancers, on the other hand, began to build a six-pointed star array under the guidance of the energy of the six-pointed star. No matter be it dead or alive, the undead arms began to gather together and formed huge bone demons up to tens of meters, or even 100 meters of body, constantly waving his fists, bombarding the mountain shaker in front of him in desperation. The mountain shaker had no choice but to turn on the defense mode at the same time. Eve ordered the dragons to focus their fire on the necromancer following Suyi. He also attacked many undead. Eve is very clear about a key to solving these bone demons. Those are the necromancers. If you don't kill them, the bone demon will keep fighting with you in a war of attrition. This is the real terror of the necromancer, of course. The limitations are quite large. The six-pointed star array must have at least 6 necromancers to construct it, no less than one behind the undead army. An army of more than 100,000 is already competing with 400,000 red armored fire ants. These little guys have all joined the battlefield, although it has been killed by the undead army a lot, but in terms of numbers, they still have an advantage. The undead army had to be distracted to clean up the red armored fire ants. No way. Although these guys look small, they are very threatening. In addition, undead do not feel pain, so many times you don't know that red armored fire ants have climbed onto your body under the gnawing of the red armored fire ants. The life value drops like a diabetes insipidus, then die quickly. These guys, like tarsal maggots, go and bite in a short period of time. Tens of thousands of undead troops were gnawed into broken bones. It fell to the ground. It was horrible. At this point in the war, the outcome has already been determined. If Angus doesn't have a new hole card, he should be the one who loses in the end. It was exactly what Suyi said before. With high-level troops, you can really do whatever you want now. The battle in the air. Bang! Angus and Blazing's body separated at the same time in the confrontation just now. Both sides won or lost, and this just proved the strong strength of Angus. The current Blazing is a dragon of level 20. Plus Suyi's fearless domain. The life value has exceeded 4 million. The defense power and attack power are more than 100,000. Which is ridiculously powerful, but it was only on par with Angus. It is enough to see that Angus is strong. Suyi also tried to detect this guy's attributes. It's a pity that what I got was a series of question marks, which should be some way this guy used to hide his basic information. Your 10th order giant dragon is nothing more than that. Angus scoffed. Suyi nodded. Yes, but I have 5,000 such giant dragons. Angus gave a look, and then became furious. He felt as if he had met his nemesis. This is so crazy to slap him in the face. Damn it, let you taste this. Angus scolded angrily. Arms flung open above his head. A black portal appeared immediately afterwards. Bursts of terrifying, scalp-numbing sounds came from the black portal above its head. Even Suyi felt a little frightened looking at Blazing. It doesn't seem to have much effect. Use my blood as a guide to summon your descending. Come out, demon gods. Angus yelled frantically. Cut your palms with sharp nails. Bright red blood flowed out instantly. Then they gathered into blood beads, suspended in midair, forming a skull symbol. The next moment, a roar came from the black portal. Then, there was a black claw sticking out from the portal. The claws are as black as ink, covered with fine scales. And the tip of the nail is as sharp as a dagger, shining with a cold light. Angus, Suyi finally frowned. He knew that the so-called demon god that Angus spoke of was definitely not something to mess with. Soon, a second claw came out, followed by the head, then the body, and then the legs. After all body parts appear, what appeared in front of Suyi was a hell demon god with a height of more than 20 meters, a pitch-black body, and a majestic face. An extremely strong aura emanates from its body. Instantly attracted the attention of everyone on the battlefield. Chapter 386. Tier 11 Soldier, demon god of hell, begging for flowers, begging for tickets, begging for everything. On the city wall, Andre was the first to react, and looked up to the sky. When he saw the thing summoned by Angus, the soul fire in its head, it swayed violently. It was as if he had received a great shock. Hell demon god, That is hell demon god, Andre exclaimed. His words were full of disbelief and horror. Eve on the side also frowned, and hurriedly asked Andre, what is hell demon god? Is it very strong? Andre tried his best to calm down his emotions, and continued, hell demon god, an 11th tier unit, has comprehensive attributes and is very strong. 11th tier arms now. Eve is not calm anymore. Although she is from the kingdom of elves, the most advanced units she has ever seen are the giant dragon and the spirit of the storm in Suyi's hands. This is the first time she has seen this 11th tier unit today. Then what to do? Eve asked after calming down. The 10th level giant dragon is already so powerful. So how powerful is the 11th level hell demon god? Andre clenched the spear in his hand, and said in a low voice, looking at Angus, he is summoning the hell demon god. It was summoned in the form of a contract, so he should not be able to mobilize many hell demon gods, so as long as the leader can take precautions in advance, the problem should not be big. Hearing this, Eve gritted her teeth. Then I'll go up and tell him that you are here to protect the safety of the defense line. As she spoke, Eve blew a whistle, and a giant dragon landed beside her in the air. Climb on the back of the dragon. Eve soared into the sky and went straight to where Suyi was. At the same time, Angus, who was confronting Suyi, had a grin on his face. Do you think you are the only one with high-level troops? Try my 11th level hell demon god. Suyi frowned, and threw a detection skill at the hell demon god. Hell demon god, rank, tier 11 level. 10 health points. 360,000 attack power. 52 defense power. 60 speed. 52 skill. Demon god's roar, open a huge mouth, launch a sonic attack towards the front, and attack within a wide range in front. Enemies deal a lot of damage, and have a 50% chance to be stunned, and the stun lasts for 3 seconds. 3 demon god fist, clenching the fist, gathering the power of the demon god, and swinging towards the target. If hit directly, this skill will cause double damage, and there is a 30% chance of fracture effect. Fracture effect, the bones in the body are broken, blood will continue to be lost, and the speed will be half. Demon armor, when the health drops below 50%, the hell demon will summon the demon armor to double his defense. The duration is 3 minutes. After the end, he will continue to recover 30% of his maximum health. Demon god purgatory, hell demon god's ultimate skill creates a field with a radius of 100 meters for himself. The enemy's arms in this field will reduce their attributes by 30%, and their life recovery effect will be reduced by 50%. All friendly units in this field will all attributes increased by 30%, life recovery effect increased by 5. Description, a powerful and terrifying creature born in the depths of hell, with extremely strong strength. Ordinary people cannot tame it, usually only by signing a contract to descend. After reading this information list, Suyi was a little speechless. This is so fucking strong. Otherwise, it is worthy of being an 11th tier unit. Let's not talk about attribute values first. Speaking of this skill, every skill is very powerful, especially demon armor and demon purgatory. The former can double the defense and restore 30% of the maximum health. The latter are domain skills, which can enhance the strength of friendly troops while weakening the strength of enemy troops. Chapter 258. Panacea skills, a powerful batch. It's no wonder that after Angus summoned such a hell demon, the expression on his face became much more relaxed. It's just that, relying on this hell demon god alone, will he win? Sorry, he can't. Just kidding. There are more than 4,000 giant dragons on Suyi's side, more than 4,000 heads, okay? You're just a demon god from hell. Even if it's the 11th level, it's fine to treat you as a beating. Before the attack started, the sound of the dragon flapping its wings sounded behind Suyi. Looking back, it was Eve who had arrived. She glanced at the demon god of hell floating in mid-air in front of her. Her pretty face turned pale. How did you come? Suyi asked. While looking towards the battlefield on the ground, Eve suddenly appeared. He thought it was an accident on the ground battlefield. After looking at it, everything is fine. Everything is on the right track. After hearing this, Eve pointed in the direction of hell demon god. I came here to remind you that this guy is very strong. You have to be careful. Suyi raised his brows. You came here for this. Although you are a little surprised, you are still a little moved in your heart. After all, the battle in the sky is 100 times more dangerous than the terror on the ground. Eve can run up to remind Suyi despite the danger, which means that she is really worried about Suyi. Although Suyi didn't need such a reminder. Don't worry, I understand. You go down first, organize the battle below, and leave the heavens to me. Eve nodded, knowing that being here would distract Suyi. Dang even rode a giant dragon and flew back to the ground. Angus on the other side seemed to feel that he was being ignored, and couldn't help being furious. Hastily ordered to let the devil god of hell attack. He decided to make a quick decision. Get rid of the bastard Suyi first. As for the remaining dragons, he took his time to deal with them. The demon god of hell who received the order to attack opened his huge mouth and let out a roar. It is deafening, even if it is blazing. It has been affected a lot. Seeing this, Suyi quickly patted Blazing's head. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, there is only one of them, and you have thousands of brothers, killing it is easy. With Suyi's reassurance, Qilai slowly calmed down. Then he flapped his wings and circled with the demon god of hell. But Suyi was even more direct. Find the right opportunity to call a few sacred dragons over. No matter how strong the hell demon god is, it is also a dark type unit. Holy light has a crushing effect on it. Chapter 387 Destroy Angus. One more subscription, soon. More than a dozen sacred dragons arrived. Not waiting, Angus reacted, and hurriedly added a blood shield to Blazing. Qilai was knocked out of half of his HP by the hell demon god just now, and he recovered to full HP in an instant. And there are several more holy light shields on his body. Seeing Suyi calling so many dragons over, Angus was a little surprised. What's the point of bullying more and less? The corners of Suyi's lips curled up, and he snorted coldly. That's what I learned from you, too. Your army of 300,000 troops attacked my army of tens of thousands, so it's not just bullying the few with more. Angus was speechless. He was so angry that he had no choice but to give the order to attack again. The hell demon god, who couldn't stand it for a long time, rushed towards the giant dragons without saying a word. At an extremely fast speed, Suyi put away the smile on his lips, calmed down, and directed the battle. Blazing is the existence with the highest level and the highest HP among all the dragons. Therefore, it will be used as a human shield in this battle to track the attacks of the hell demon god. There is no way. The hell demon god is an 11th level troop after all, and it is still a full level 10th, with a terrifyingly high damage ability. An ordinary 10th level giant dragon may not be able to stop it. Therefore, it is most appropriate to attract firepower by Blazing. As for the other sacred dragons summoned by Suyi, their tasks are very simple. There are only two. First, offense. Their sacred attribute damage has a restraint effect on hell demon god, and can often double the damage. Second, in order to continue the battle, the sacred dragon is one of the few dragons in Suyi's dragon army that can add a blood shield to the dragon in this protracted battle. Their healing and shielding are particularly important. Finally, there is Suyi, who is fighting against a fearless domain to increase the strength of the giant dragons. The battle is about to break out. More than a dozen sacred dragons surround the demon god of hell, constantly issuing holy light to punish this harmless attack on ordinary monsters. But on the devil god of hell, it would be like a fire one after another, densely packed. The HP of the hell demon god is dropping sharply. This made Angus anxious. In desperation, he had no choice but to cut his other palm. Another hell demon god was summoned to join the battle, but in the end, it was still at a disadvantage in single combat. A full-level hell demon god can completely defeat any giant dragon, but when it comes to gang fights and attribute restrained, Suyi has the absolute upper hand. Contract summoning. The bigger and more things are summoned, the greater the pressure on the summoner. For example, the current Angus, summoning two hell demon gods has already made it a little difficult, but in order to win the battle, he had to grit his teeth and persevere. Summoned the third and fourth hell demon god. The four demon gods of hell can be suppressed by you, but don't forget, Suyi is a man with 5,000 giant dragons. Among them, there are quite a few sacred dragons. Can you still be afraid of you, Angus? Seeing that the battle on the ground has stabilized, Suyi with a whistle, hundreds of sacred dragons flew over with him joining the battle. Angus' hell demon was defeated in an instant. Two of them were directly killed. A huge body fell from the sky, killing hundreds of undead soldiers. Do you want to continue? Suyi looked at Angus, who was already trembling. The latter's face was gloomy and uncertain. He knew it. He knew that today he would not be able to break down no matter what. Suyi lost, and he lost completely. For a while, he already had the idea of retreating in his heart. Boy, I admit that you are very strong, but don't forget, I am the Lord of Hell, Earl Angus, and one day, I will make you pay the price. After finishing speaking, Angus gave the order to let the two demon gods of hell attack the giant dragon, and he himself flew towards the rear. Seeing this, Suyi snorted coldly. I want to escape. Do you agree? After all, the troops are divided into two groups. Let dozens of holy dragons continue to deal with the demon god of hell, and he himself, riding Blazing, kept up with Angus' figure. When the attack started, Angus' life value plummeted. This. Angus is quite angry. He couldn't win the fight. He couldn't run away. He was very desperate. As for Suyi, he didn't intend to let Angus go at all, and continued to chase and fight. In the end, Angus's life value is successfully cleared. Burn this guy's body to ashes. But does this kill Angus? Nope. Angus turned into another form, similar to a spirit body, translucent, Suspended in mid-air, Suyi tried to attack, but he had no impression of Angus. He glared at Suyi. "You can destroy my body, just wait. The next time we meet, you will die." After finishing speaking, Angus flew to the portal where the undead army was transported. The hot-tempered Zhili wanted to chase after him, but was stopped by Suyi, not to mention whether it can catch up to Angus. Even if it can catch up, so what? This guy's current form is almost invincible, and he can't receive any damage at all. In desperation, Suyi had no choice but to return to the previous battlefield on Blazing. The two unlucky hell demon gods who were summoned didn't last long and were quickly killed. The army of undead on the ground, after seeing that Angus had fled, also lost their footing, especially those wise necromancers. Without further ado, immediately give up maintaining the six-pointed star formation, and run towards the direction of the portal. Once the necromancers left, the other arms naturally followed suit in an instant. Only the remaining 100,000 troops of Angus's 300,000 troops ran towards the portal crazily. Suyi naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. With an order, the giant dragons and the spirits of the storm began to kill the undead who have no intention of fighting again. Gained a lot of experience points. About half an hour later, the war is officially over. Only an army of 20,000 undead managed to escape back to hell. The rest all became broken bones on this battlefield. This battle was well played. Chapter 388. Angus, second watch for subscription. Next, it's time to clean up the battlefield. Chapter 259. Suyi returned to the side of Eve, Andre, and Lin Yangtze. "The battle is over. How is the situation here?" Suyi asked. Eve, Andre, and Lin Yangtze looked at each other. Eve said, "The situation is alright. There are not many casualties, but a section of the city wall has collapsed." Suyi frowned, but quickly relaxed it again. "It's just that a section of the city wall has collapsed. Fortunately, it's completely acceptable after all. What they are facing this time is an army of 300,000, and on their side, there are only more than 30,000 troops, including the lords of the goldmine defense line. It is already very good to be able to withstand the impact of 300,000 troops with these numbers of defenders. Of course, this is also thanks to the red armored fire ants. These guys can be regarded as a great contribution to Suyi in the previous battle. The attacking progress of the 150,000 undead army was successfully delayed. At the same time, it also wiped out at least 7 or 8 million undead army. "By the way, Brother Su, has the vampire been killed?" Lin Yangtze suddenly asked, the vampire in her mouth. Needless to say, refers to Angus. Hearing this, Suyi shook his head. "Not yet. His body was destroyed by me, and in the end there was only one thing like a spirit body, which was immune to damage, so he ran away." After the words fell, Andre said, "It's a ghost state, a skill that all the kings of hell know. If Angus escapes this time, then our lives will be busy in the future." Hearing this, Suyi frowned and looked at Andre. "What do you mean?" Andre looked up at the dim sky, and said eloquently, "Angus is a hell lord after all. Although he is not the strongest group, but he still has a lot of right to speak. As long as he wants, he can send an endless army of undead to attack our territory day and night." As soon as these words came out, even Lin Yangtze's expressions changed. Suyi frowned a little and clenched his fists. "If he dares to come again, then we will kill him again. The army of undead, as many as you come, kill as many as you like." Andre sighed softly and didn't speak again. "It used to be a hell lord, although I don't know Angus. I have heard of this guy's name, or I have heard of Angus' brother, Angus, name Angus, one of the strongest rulers of hell. There are hundreds of arms, tens of millions. There are countless strong men under his command, and even more high-level arms. Andre, he is the one who is afraid." Once Angus went to Angus for help, Suyi wanted to tell Suyi the truth, but Andre gave up again. Don't bless Suyi for no reason. During this time, help him become stronger anyway. The space between hell and earth is not very stable now, and it is impossible to carry out large-scale troop transfers otherwise. Angus could have moved his $1 million army over to fight Suyi to death, but he didn't. Is it because he doesn't have 1,000,000 troops? No, it's because the portal doesn't allow it. Because of the advent of the era of Earth Lords, the area has expanded tenfold. The space has been torn apart and has not been fully restored. The construction of the portal requires a stable space. If the space is unstable, it is impossible to transport large-scale arms, and this is why the portals from Suyi's star field to the Tree Demons, Clear Waters and Red Roses territories cannot transport troops as long as time goes by. The torn space inside the earth will slowly stabilize. These portals will also be able to transport and carry arms, but at that time, it is the real Lord Air. Leave the cleaning of the battlefield to the troops. Suyi, Eve, and Lin Yangtze have returned to the number 1 territory of the gold mine to rest. Although the previous battle didn't last long, the 3 of them were all nervous. It's time to take a break now. Time flies. It is already the next day. The battlefield has been cleaned up, and there are a lot of spoils. There are 600 million optical resources. Suya did not fill his pockets, but gave the 600 million points to the lords of the gold mine defense line. After all, they also played a big role in the battle last night. As for other loot, such as equipment, materials, and all kinds of weird things, Suyi first picked a batch and took away what he wanted. Then came Eve, Lin Yangtze and Andre. You can pick something that is useful to you and take it away. Finally, these things were handed over to the lords of the gold mine defense line. Let them choose freely. This is almost a great favor to them in their previous alliance. There has never been such treatment all of a sudden. These lords trusted and worshipped Suyi even more. After making arrangements for the gold mine, Suyi returned to the star field and take 300 units of food and go straight to the orc secret lands. After the battle last night, the red armored fire ants followed the tunnel to the battlefield and returned to the orc secret realm. Now, too, is the time to check out these little guys ride blazing into the orc mystery. Suya came to the vicinity of the red armored fire ant nest with ease. When he came here to transfer troops yesterday, he didn't take a closer look. Looking at it now, it actually startled Suya. He saw what could be called a perfect main city of red armored fire ants. The diameter of the entire ant nest has exceeded 100 meters, and that's just the part on the ground. Under the ground is the real activity area of the red armored fire ants. How big is it there? Suya couldn't see it looking at the red-armed fire ant nest. Tens of thousands of red-armed fire ants are crawling in and out of the nest. Enter the forest ordered by the orcs to find food. After all, unlike other types of troops, the red-armored fire ants only need enough food to breed new soldiers continuously. This is a very scary setting. It seems that we have to find an opportunity to grow a batch of food here, Suya thought to himself. Then, he detected the information of the red-armored fire ant nest, as follows. Chapter 389 Dwarf Forging Competition. Red Armored Fire Ant Nest, Level, Tier 4, Level 4. 10 units. 850,000 to 100,000 Training Template. Red Armored Fire Ant Training Cost, Gold Coin 0, Food 1 Training Time, Uncertain Upgrade Requirements, Automatically Upgrade Ant Nest. The scale of the fire ants has reached 1 million, and after yesterday's battle, many millions of red armored fire ants died. Lost some energy. Suya is not a stingy person. Even if he took out 100 units of food from the Lord's space, he randomly threw it in the jungle of the orc secret realm. As soon as the food was taken out, the red armored fire ants nest exploded, and tens of thousands of red armored fire ants crawled out of the nest like crazy, and then approached the food with a rustle. After confirming that it is indeed edible, these guys carry the food to the nest. It was exactly the same as the ants' moving house that Suya saw when he was a child. Seeing the orderly operation of the huge kingdom in front of him, Suya felt secretly refreshed. With the current scale of the red armored fire ant, it can already provide him with a lot of help. Wait until the next time. What kind of large-scale monster siege battle? You can still use them, of course, to ask the red armored fire ants for help. You need to make some preparations in advance. So Suya decided to first divide a group of red armored fire ants to dig tunnels. It mainly leads to 3 places. The first is the Starfield territory, which is Suya's territory and also the headquarters of the Sky Alliance. The most important thing, dig the tunnel in advance, and when you want the red armored fire ants to help you, just call out. These little guys can rush to the battlefield as quickly as possible. The second is the gold mine defense line. This is currently one of the few sources of gold coins for Suyi, and it is also the easiest place to attract monsters to attack, so it needs to be protected. The previous tunnels were dug in haste, and many places collapsed, so Suya decided to dig another one, the one buried deep underground. The third place is Lin Yangtze's galaxy territory on Huxon Island. Although it is said that the territory of Huxon Island is easy to defend and difficult to attack, it is always necessary to be fully prepared just in case. This is Suya's plan. He wants to build a defensive network underground so that the red armored fire ants can easily reach any battlefield. After having a plan in mind, Suya didn't hesitate. Without saying a word, he gave orders to the red armored fire ants in order to guide them to dig successfully. Suya also took away some red armored fire ants and placed them in the star field, the gold mine, and the island in the middle of the lake. In this way, the red armored fire ants will automatically find the best way to dig. After arranging everything here, by the time Suya arrived in the star field, the sky had already darkened. When you come to the camp of Storm Spirit, the information is as follows. Storm Spirit Barracks, Level, Tier 10 Level, 5 units, 45 Training Template, Storm Spirit Training Cost, 200,000 gold coins, no special conditions. Training time, Upgrade at 2400 hours. Requirements: wood, stone, iron ore, gold ore, each 1 billion. Time 480 hours. Currently Suya has 4,500 storm spirit heads, and the training peak of the 5th level barracks is 5,000. Without further ado, training begins. It costs 1 billion gold coins. Training 500 storm spirits succeeded. The beep sounded, and the training of the storm spirit began. The progress bar scrolls slowly. Suya glanced at it, and after confirming that there was no problem, he went back to the private house to wash and rest. Chapter 260. Time flies. It is already 3 days later. The gold mine defense line has been repaired for the losses caused by the war. The collapsed city walls, damaged city defense equipment, and killed troops have all been repaired, and everything is back on track. But on this day, Vulcan suddenly came to the star field and made a request to Suya. You want me to go with you? Suya looked at Vulcan. The latter nodded heavily. Yes, leader, this dwarf forging competition is very important, and I still need your help. Hearing this, Suya fell into deep thought. Here's the thing, in the dwarf kingdom, there has been a habit that has continued for hundreds of thousands of years. That is, every 3 years, a dwarf forging competition will be held. After all, the most outstanding talent of dwarves is forging equipment. In the competition, the participating dwarves will forge equipment on the spot. Finally, the scores will be judged by special judges. The one with the highest score wins. The winner will be rewarded with equipment from the dwarf kingdom. It is extremely rich. Therefore, every session of the dwarf forging competition is extremely popular. Vulcan had already been notified to participate in the competition, but he didn't want to go alone, so he came to find Suya. Seeing Suya's hesitation, Vulcan was a little disappointed, waited for a while, and said, if the leader has something to do, if you really can't leave, forget it. As soon as the words fell, Suya spoke. No, I can go with you, but I have one request. Vulcan was overjoyed when he heard the words, and quickly said, leader, please tell me. I will definitely agree. I want to visit your holy mountain. Suya said he still clearly remembered the portrait of the Titan hanging in Vulcan's forging room. This is a genuine 11th tier unit. At that time, Suya said that if he had the chance, he must go to the holy mountain to look for clues. Now, when the opportunity came, how could he give up Vulcan? Hearing the words, he agreed without even thinking about it. The competition will be held at the foot of the holy mountain. Leader, I agree to your request. Hearing this, Suya snapped his fingers. Okay, when shall we set off? Vulcan tilted his head and thought for a while, then said, 3 days later. Suya nodded, completely. He doesn't care. Vulcan bid farewell and was about to leave, but he had just gone a few steps when he suddenly turned back. Master, I have one more request. Suya frowned slightly. Tell me. Vulcan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Leader, I hope you can give me a batch of precious ores to help me win the championship of this competition. Chapter 390, Sky Alliance. Can't live without you. After finishing speaking, Vulcan looked at Suya with some anxiety. He felt that his request was a little too much, but unexpectedly, Suya agreed directly without thinking too much. Don't worry, you can use the ore I collected at that time. Hearing this, Vulcan quickly thanked him, almost kneeling in front of Suya and kissing his boots. As far as this rare ore is concerned, Suya still has quite a few. After the Lord era came, he had been to many places. Secondly, regular battles give him a lot of chances to harvest spoils. Killing certain monsters will drop some strange ores, gems and so on. These ores and gems usually have some magical attributes, which are originally prepared for forging equipment. Vulcan helped Suya so much in the gold mine, so Suya would naturally not be stingy at that time. As long as Vulcan asks for any gems, as long as Suya has them, he will give them all. After getting Suya's affirmative answer, Vulcan hummed a little tune and left the star field. Finally, return to the Warhammer tribe and start packing your bags. Counting the time, he has not returned to the Dwarf Kingdom for nearly 2 years. I don't know what happened to the Dwarf Kingdom and those nasty guys. Are they dead? After Vulcan left, Suya also started to make preparations. After all, 3 days are fleeting. God knows how long it will take to go to the Dwarf Kingdom. This time Suya went to the Tree Demon territory first. The renovation plan of Super Linkshin is in full swing with the personal supervision of the Golden Tree Demon King. Everything went smoothly. It's just that the transformation of Linkshin needs a lot of time to complete. Don't be in a hurry. After checking the progress of Linkshin's transformation, Suya and Sukainer talked about their leaving and going to the Dwarf Kingdom with Vulcan. After hearing this, the little girl pursed her mouth. You have just come back. Are you going to leave again? Suya laughed loudly when she heard the words, and stroked the little girl's black hair. Until we become the strongest, we will never stop our footsteps. Going to the Dwarf Kingdom this time is related to an important plan of mine. I can't go. Sukainer nodded half understanding. Okay then, remember to go early and come back early, pay attention to safety, you don't have to worry about the tree demon's territory, Suya responded, and then said, I don't know how long it will take to come back after leaving this time. I will send 1,000 dragons to help you guard the tree demon's territory. Suza's eyes lit up when she heard the words, thank you, brother. She can see the fighting power of the giant dragon much stronger than her beast summoner, Earth Dragon, etc. It can also fly and is highly maneuverable. It is simply a thing that was burned, killed and looted. Coincidentally, there are more monsters gathered near the tree demon territory during this period, and Sukainer can take this opportunity to clean up a wave. Then, Suya and Sukainer went back and forth between the Dryad territory and the Star Domain territory together. Continue to transport troops. Transported 1,000 giant dragons to the territory of the Dryad. Looking at the giant dragon that had already flown up the city wall, Suya felt a little nervous. Take it easy. The current Dryad territory is at an important moment of upgrading the super spirit field, and it must be 100% safe. After instructing Sukainer some precautions, Suya returned to the star field. He took 1,000 dragons to the galaxy territory on Huxon Island and handed them over to Lin Yangxi and tell her that she must keep an eye on the situation of the gold mine defense line and the star domain if something is wrong. Immediately rush to the rescue. Lin Yangxi naturally agreed. After bidding farewell to Lin Yangxi, Suya went to the gold mine and explained the situation to Eve. Has no objections. The only thing she worries about is Angus, who ran away a few days ago. I'm afraid that this guy will suddenly counterattack and pose a threat to the gold mine. Suya heard the words and repeatedly comforted her. As said before, now the space inside the earth is not stable. Even if Angus wants to attack the gold mine again, he cannot send troops into the earth on a large scale, and this, for Angus, is a fatal problem because he has already tried the strength of the Suya gold mine defense line. If the attacking undead army was not as large as last time, he would not dare to attack at will, and this is Suya's confidence. Don't worry, he won't dare to come again in a short time. Eve nodded. It doesn't matter whether he comes or not, you have to go early and come back early. The Sky Alliance cannot do without you. The latter sentence is what Suya said. Yes, he is the leader of the Sky Alliance. Many things require him, the leader, to make decisions. As Eve said, the Sky Alliance cannot do without him. I see, don't worry. Suya hugged Eve into her arms and softly comforted her. Time passed, and it was time to set off with Vulcan. Vulcan made preparations early because he was accompanied by Suya. He did not bring anyone else with him when he returned to the Dwarf Kingdom this time. It's just that when Suya saw him, this guy had already packed the bags, leaving Suya speechless for a while. Are you moving, or are you going home? Suya was not in a good mood. Vulcan chuckled. Hasn't it been a long time since I went back? Bring some special products from the earth back, and it will also open the eyes of us lumpy people. Suya shrugged helplessly. Well, he can't control this. Watch as Vulcan throws the things he wants to take away into its lord's space. Then the two rode blazing and flew into the sky. The dwarves of the Warhammer tribe all gathered on the city wall, watching Suya and Vulcan leave after more than a year of development. Vulcan has conquered all the dwarf tribes within 100 miles and integrated them into one place. Now his Warhammer tribe has more than 100,000 dwarves, and the mines they occupy are countless. This guy, under Suya's leadership, has grown stronger day by day, blazing all the way forward. The Warhammer tribe behind Suya and Vulcan became smaller and smaller until they disappeared. Chapter 261. Chapter 391. Suya, you must win the championship. Subscribe for the second watch. Then, Suya followed a route pointed by Vulcan and flew all the way towards the entrance of the Dwarf Kingdom. On the way, Suya was a little bored, so he asked Vulcan to tell him the rules and history of the dwarf forging competition. Vulcan didn't dare to hide anything, so he told Suya exactly. It turns out that the dwarf race has a characteristic that is laziness in the days when there is no war and no battle. Most of the dwarves are accompanied by beer all day long. The dwarf king at that time couldn't see it. That's why I came up with the idea of holding a dwarf forging competition, and there are quite generous prizes set as long as they can win the final victory in the forging contest. The winning dwarves can take away these prizes with the stimulation of this competition. The dwarves who had fallen into depression regain their spirits. In order to win the game, they need to be prepared. Prepare various materials, gems, ores, and even trace elements, and these things are not all concentrated in the land of the Dwarf Kingdom. Therefore, after several dwarf forging competitions in a row, the dwarves' emotions were mobilized. Many dwarves even started to go to other worlds to find materials that were not available in the Dwarf Kingdom, and bring them back as materials for forging equipment. Vulcan, and even most of the dwarves who came to Earth, have this purpose in mind. Time flies, and the dwarf forging competition has been going on for hundreds of years. It has almost become the most solemn ceremony in the dwarf kingdom for every dwarf blacksmith. Their ultimate goal is to be on the final podium of the dwarf blacksmith competition, take away rich rewards and reap supreme glory. Obviously, Vulcan also went for this time then. Vulcan mentioned to Suya the final reward after winning the dwarf forging competition. In addition to the usual honors, resources, treasures, blueprints and other rewards, the most precious thing is to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain for enlightenment. It is a magical space built inside the Holy Mountain, which stores the outstanding works of forging masters of the dwarf kingdom. I heard that those who are destined can also get the personal guidance of the Titan God. The dwarf blacksmiths who have entered this magical space, after they come out, basically have a lot of gains, which can improve their forging skills to a higher level. Vulcan said with a longing face. Before that, he also participated in many dwarf forging competitions. Unfortunately, due to poor materials, his grades were not satisfactory, not to mention entering the interior of the Holy Mountain for enlightenment. But Suyi, after listening to Vulcan's narration, only cares about a certain point. Those who are destined can get the personal guidance of the Titan God. Is this the same as the 11th tier Titans? Suyi hurriedly asked. The champion of the competition can only enter the Holy Mountain for enlightenment. Vulcan was silent for a while, then nodded. Not all. Sometimes you can choose to bring a person into the interior of the Holy Mountain. Hearing this, Suyi called, well, this time you must win the championship. The voice fell, and Vulcan stopped. Must win the championship depends on, do you think you can win the championship just by talking about it? Suyi seems to have seen what Vulcan is thinking, and then said, I will do my best to assist you and make you a champion. When you go to enlightenment inside the mountain, take me with you, and I will go in and have a look. Vulcan stopped again, not to mention how difficult it is to become a champion even if he becomes the champion. Suyi, you are a foreigner. How can it be so easy to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain, which is the holiest place in the dwarf kingdom? Leader, KK is a foreigner. Vulcan reminded. The corner of Suyi's lips twitched. You should win the championship first, and we will talk about other issues at that time. Vulcan nodded helplessly, but in my heart, there was a sense of certainty. He has seen Suyi's development with Suyi's help this time. Perhaps it is really possible for him to win the championship when the time comes to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain. I will be excited just thinking about it. It is not a short distance from Henan City to the entrance of the dwarf kingdom. The whole journey was boring, and the two of them chatted one after another. 3 days later, the entrance to the Dwarven Kingdom arrived. Just in the valley ahead is a huge portal, and in order to prevent other races from breaking into the Dwarf Kingdom at the entrance of this portal, a protection mechanism is placed. If you are a foreigner, without a dwarf as a guarantee, you cannot enter the Dwarf Kingdom. Fortunately, Suyi was accompanied by Vulcan, so the two of them passed through the portal unimpeded. When Suyi's vision recovers again in front of him, a whole new world appeared that he had never seen before. The high mountains are continuous, and there are many countless buildings built between the mountains. Between those buildings, dwarves can often be seen in action. At the end of Suyi's field of vision, there was a huge mountain towering into the sky. That's right, it's a giant mountain. Around this giant mountain, all the mountains are low, only the giant mountain is majestic and domineering, towering into the clouds. That's the Holy Mountain. Vulcan pointed to the giant mountain road. Suyi couldn't help but take a few more glances. Then the two walked towards a nearby low hill. While walking to Vulcan, he introduced, the places where dwarves live are strictly regulated. The higher the status and the stronger the dwarf family can live in the hills closer to the Holy Mountain. What about your family? Suyi couldn't help asking. Vulcan stopped and pointed to the front. No, that's it. Suyi looked intently, the corners of his eyes twitching. Vulcan refers to a low hill, which looks a bit messy overall. There is a small castle built on the hillside that is Vulcan's home. Vulcan took Suyi with him, and walked outside the house. Not long after looking at the dilapidated castle in front of him, Vulcan felt a burst of emotion. Chapter 392, The Secret Realm of the Dwarves. Calculating the time, it has been 2 years, 3 months and 18 days since I left here. Vulcan sighed. Suyi was speechless. Shit. You bastard. Vulcan, who is still in a hurry, stepped forward and tried to open the door unexpectedly. As soon as it was pushed, the wooden door fell off the door frame and fell to the ground with a bang. A large cloud of dust was thrown up. Suyi's head was full of black lines, and he looked at Vulcan. How long has it been since you haven't lived? Vulcan shrugged. It has been since I left, Suyi. After the dust dispersed, the two walked into the castle. This castle is somewhat different from the castle of the Warhammer Horde. The castle of the Warhammer tribe is a real fortress, and it can even be called a small kingdom, but the one in front of him is just Vulcan's little home. Not only is it small, but it's also very broken. Not only broken, But it's also frankly not lived in for more than 2 years as far as the eye can see. It's full of dust, even the walls collapsed in several places, so I came here, and you let me live here. Suyi laughed teasingly. Vulcan's face turned pale, and he quickly shook his head. I don't want to be the Lord. I don't know that this place will become like this. I will clean it now. With that said, Vulcan quickly cleaned up. I chose the best preserved room and cleaned it quickly. Then he invited Suyi in. Leader, you should stay here for the next few days in the Dwarf Kingdom. Suyi was also polite, walked into the room and looked around. Not bad. Very strong dwarven architectural style. There's even a blacksmithing table on the side. It's just that it hasn't been ignited all the year round and has been abandoned. Vulcan tossed and tossed outside the room for dozens of minutes before he cleaned up his once small home. Then he knocked on Suyi's door. Leader, I'm going to visit Lord Grey's house. Do you want to come together? Castle Grey. Suyi frowned. I don't know who it is, but it's good to go and see. Immediately got up and let Vulcan lead the way. The latter led Suyi towards the direction of the Holy Mountain while introducing Suyi. Castle Lord Grey is the ruler and the most prestigious person in our area. If the dwarves want to participate in the forging competition, they must sign up from him. 3 days later, it will be the day to participate in the competition. It must be very lively at Lord Grey's house today. After speaking, Vulcan took Suyi with him. Chapter 262. In front of a huge castle. The castle in front of me is bigger and cleaner than Vulcan's castle, and outside the castle, people have already gathered. The arrival of Vulcan and Suyi at this moment quickly attracted the attention of these dwarves. They all looked towards this side, with some surprise in their eyes, especially when meeting Suyi. Isn't this Vulcan? Why did he bring a human back? I don't know, but as far as I know, humans are the worst race. Why did Vulcan know him? The weak always like to be with the weak. A sharp and piercing voice sounded, suppresses the surrounding voices. After Vulcan heard it, he looked towards the place where the sound came from, and couldn't help clenching his fists, as if there was anger in his eyes. What, Vulcan, don't you remember me? I'm defeated. The dwarf said another sentence. The words were full of provocation and ridicule. Vulcan snorted coldly. Harmon, I will never forget who I forget, and I will never forget you. I thought you were dead, but I never expected to see you here. The dwarf known as Harmon's face changed slightly, and he scolded angrily. HMPH, don't be too complacent. You will still be my defeater in this competition. Wait and see. Vulcan showed no sign of weakness. Suyi watched the quarrel between the two from behind, and secretly thought in his heart that there is a story between Vulcan and Harmon. But Harmon said that he is weak. This cannot be tolerated. Thinking of this, Suyi looked at Harmon. The latter was also looking at him, and immediately, the two looked at each other. Suyi brought out his arrogance to the extreme. The expression of Harmon, who was looking directly into Suyi's eyes, changed drastically, and he quickly looked away at this moment. His heart was beating non-stop. Damn, what is the origin of this human being? Harmon said with some lingering fear when he looked in the direction of Vulcan and Suyi. They had already entered Grey's castle, and in the castle, I successfully met this Lord Grey. He is an old dwarf. His original golden beard is a little gray, but his body is already strong. This should be related to his frequent forging of equipment. How about exercising every day? After Vulcan saw Grey, he felt very cordial. Hey, old Grey, I'm back. Grey glanced at Vulcan, and his eyes lit up immediately. Vulcan, you are back. Vulcan nodded, took out a lot of medicinal materials brought back from the earth from the Lord's space, and put the spiritual fruit in front of Grey. Old Grey, here is a present from you. Grey glanced at it, looking very satisfied. Come back when you come back. What gift do you bring? Head ho ho. Then, the two began to chat with each other. Suyi wasn't interested in listening, so he walked to the side on his own and looked at some murals in Grey Castle. Most of them are murals about forging, and some of them, a giant is painted falling from the sky. You guessed that this should be the Titan. It seems that what Vulcan said about a relationship between the dwarves and the Titan should be true. When Suyi walked around and returned to Vulcan, Vulcan happened to mention the forging contest with Grey. Grey's words attracted Suyi's attention. This forging competition is a little different from the previous ones. You have to work hard and strive for a good result, Grey pointed out. Vulcan and Suyi looked at each other, and the former hurriedly asked, what's the difference? Can you tell me about it? Grey glanced at Suyi, a little hesitant seeing this. Vulcan quickly explained, this is my human friend on Earth, and he is one of our own, so just say it. Chapter 393, the contest begins. One more subscription required. With Vulcan's guarantee, Grey felt relieved, and talked to the two about the difference between this forging competition and the past. It turns out that 3 months ago, the Holy Mountain in the Dwarf Kingdom suddenly experienced violent vibrations. It was not discovered until the strong among the dwarves went to check. Originally, there was only one passage leading to the interior of the holy mountain. But this year it turned into 3, and what this means is obvious. This means that dwarves who enter the holy mountain for enlightenment can enter 3-3. This increases a lot of opportunities for the dwarves. That's why Gray said that this year's forging competition will be different from previous years. That is to say, as long as you win the top 3 in the competition, you can enter the interior of the holy mountain. Vulcan asked. Gray nodded. Yes, as long as you get the top 3, you can enter. Hearing this, for some reason, Vulcan's heart began to become hot. Suya said before that to make him win the championship, Vulcan still has some drums. How can I be right? The championship can't be so easy to fall on my head? But now, from Gray's mouth, there are 3-3. As long as you win the top 3 in the competition, you can enter the interior of the holy mountain for enlightenment. This virtually increased Vulcan's chances. He was thinking, if he can't win the championship, he can get both the runner-up and the third runner-up. With this idea in his mind, Vulcan quickly said, then sign up for me. Gray nodded, took out the roster and prepared to log in. Watching Gray write his name, Vulcan seemed to see something again. Pointing to the column of assistants on the roster, he said, what is this? Gray raised his head and explained softly, oh, this is a new event this year, and each participating dwarf can bring an assistant. Vulcan's eyes lit up, and he asked, then if the victory's won, can the assistant also enter the interior of the holy mountain? Gray hesitated for a moment. Yes. Hearing this, Vulcan and Suyi looked at each other. Well, I want an assistant. That's him, my human friend, Suyi. As he spoke, Vulcan pointed to Suyi beside him. Gray yai. Everyone brings assistants, and they all bring dwarves who have the same forging skills as themselves, and Vulcan, on the other hand, did the opposite, even bringing a human. You really decided? Gray asked. Vulcan nodded. It's decided. Let's take him. Gray shrugged. Okay, after all, Suyi's name was written in the column of Vulcan's assistant after the registration was over. Vulcan didn't stay any longer, and returned to his hut with Suyi. It seems to be smoother than we imagined. Next, we only have one goal, to win the top 3 in this competition, and then we will be able to enter the interior of the holy mountain smoothly. Suyi nodded at the same time. He thought of what Gray said before, about a series of changes that took place in the mountain. He always felt that this was no coincidence. It symbolizes that something is about to happen, and it is very likely to be related to Titan. Stayed in Vulcan's hut for 3 days. 3 days later, a dwarf came to inform Vulcan to participate. Vulcan didn't dare to neglect, and hurriedly led Suyi towards the direction of the holy mountain. It was quite lively along the way because apart from the contestants Vulcan and Suyi, there are thousands of dwarf groups approaching the holy mountain. They are all there for the game, of course. There are also some who go to watch the game after walking for more than half an hour. Vulcan and Suyi finally arrived at the train leading to the holy mountain. That's right, the train, or rather, a tram. A track leads to the direction of the holy mountain. The dwarves got into the cart and headed towards them. Suyi and Vulcan are no exception on the bang 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 dang car. Staggeringly galloped towards the direction of the holy mountain. Another half-hour drive. The two finally arrived near the holy mountain. Before, when I observed the body from a distance, I felt that this mountain was majestic and domineering. Now at the foot of the mountain, looking at the holy mountain, it is not only majestic and domineering, but this thing is the giant pillar of the sky, soaring into the clouds. You can't see the top of the mountain. The entire holy mountain is made of condensed stones and looks extremely thick, and at the foot of the holy mountain, there are countless forging platforms lined up. These forging tables are connected to the sacred mountain fire. As soon as you get close to here, you can feel the heat wave blowing against your face. On the other side of the countless forging platforms is the place to watch the competition. It's like the action of a giant arena. Chapter 263. Rows of seats are made of flat stones now. Many dwarves have already sat on the seats. He looked towards the direction of the forging table with fiery eyes. Finally, the holy mountain is tens of meters high. A huge platform has been opened up here. According to Vulcan, this is the place where the Dwarf King and the organizer of the competition stayed. As more and more dwarves entered the arena, Suyi stood out among them mainly because of his height, about 1.8 meters, while the dwarves are only 1.5 meters at most, with a height tens of centimeters higher. Suyi stood out from the crowd. Suyi glanced around speechlessly. It didn't matter if he didn't look at it, but he was a little surprised when he looked at it because at the other end, he unexpectedly found a human being just like himself. She's a girl, not too tall, and stands out from the crowd of short people. Very eye-catching. When Suyi looked over, the girl obviously noticed him too. The two looked at each other with surprised expressions on their faces. After a while, the woman came back to her senses and smiled at Suyi. Suyebeo responded with a smile. It is very lucky to be able to see human beings like myself in a world full of dwarves. However, The distance between the two is too far, so it is unrealistic to get close to each other and chat for a few days on the holy mountain. The king of the dwarves and the ruler of the great game has come out. The king of the dwarves was a fat old man with a white beard. He was still wearing armor, and his face was calm and majestic. Chapter 394 Gems. Just use them then. The dwarf king began to announce that the 250th dwarf forging competition was about to begin in the dwarf kingdom. Then, the organizer of the competition began to announce the various rules of the competition. There are mainly these few. First, the duration of this competition is 10 days. If you leave the forging platform within 10 days, you will be deemed to have given up the competition. If you submit your work in advance, you can leave the competition early. Second, the competition will adopt a scoring system. There will be a total of 10 judges who will score the entries, and the one with the highest total score will win. Third, entries must be forged on site, and cannot be replaced secretly. Once discovered, immediately disqualification from the competition and a charge of fraud will be added. Fourth, after reading out 10 competition rules in a row, the basic situation of the competition is explained clearly. Then, another contest organizer was changed and the prizes for the contest began to be announced. First place, qualifications to enter the holy mountain, a blueprint for advanced equipment, and various materials. Second place, entry qualifications, a blueprint of advanced equipment, and various materials. Third place, qualifications to enter the holy mountain, a blueprint for advanced equipment, and various materials. Fourth to 10th place, a piece of equipment blueprint, and various materials. 11th to 50th place, a blueprint of high-level equipment, and various materials. To put it simply, the 51st rank is, the higher the ranking, the better the reward. This is true in any kind of game. After reading the rules, rewards, and precautions, the next step is to draw lots to determine the location of the forging table. This is very important because the forging platform is connected to the ground fire of the holy mountain. The dwarves cannot control the size of the ground fire, and the temperature of the ground fire will vary with the location of the forging platform. The process of extracting the location of the forging table is completely dependent on luck. If you are lucky and get a good position, then you are already ahead of others from the very beginning. If you are unlucky and get a bad position, then sorry, you have fallen behind others from the very beginning. Competitors line up to draw stones from an opaque wooden box. The stone is a kind of transparent crystal, and inside the crystal, there will be a number marked on it. Rely on the number inside the stone to find the location of the forging table. Vulcan pulled out a stone, and the number inside was 666. The numbers are quite auspicious. But I don't know the location, so I didn't have time to think about it. So Vulcan took Suyi straight to number 666 forging platform. Finally found the number 666 forging platform at the foot of the holy mountain. In order to prevent contestants from changing places, the extracted crystal stones must be put into a groove at the bottom of the forging table. To open the forging table, Vulcan did as he did and put the stone in an instant. Only a whirring sound was heard. The raging ground fire erupted from the forging platform. Vulcan glanced at it, and the eyes shone brightly. It's not bad. The fire is above average. This is much better than my luck in the past few years. Suya didn't speak. Just glance at the place where the woman was before, about 100 meters away from him. Okay chat, still it's impossible. You can only give up temporarily soon. All the contestants found their forging tables. Some dwarves got the best position of the forging table, and they couldn't help shouting, which caused the surrounding dwarves to sneer, while some dwarves sighed a little because the position of the forging table they picked was not satisfactory. But the dwarf king didn't give these dwarves a chance to replace the forge. After all dwarf contestants are in place, he gave the order to start the game. After Vulcan heard the order, he was not ambiguous, and Dang even took out a blueprint from his lord's space. Spread out on the forge, what is drawn on it is a sword. The blade of the sword is uneven, but sharp. In the lower left corner of the drawing, the various materials needed to forge this sword are marked. Vulcan opened the lord's space to dig out, and after a while, there were a lot of ore beside him for this competition. He started preparing half a year ago. The basic materials are all there, but he didn't collect rare gems and the like. It's not that Vulcan is lazy, but that he can't collect them, and all rare gems are called rare gems because they are rare. Since they are rare, they are not so easy to collect. Therefore, at this time, Vulcan can only rely on Suyi. Leader, gems or something, please support me. Suyi was also polite, opened the lord's space, and took out various gems. There are explosive flame gems, thunder god stones, water spirit stones, ice stones, flame crystals, and dragon scale stones. In less than a minute, Suya took out nearly 20 kinds of gemstones. Vulcan was stunned. He looked at the various gemstones in front of him, swallowed a mouthful of saliva. There are so many. Suyi shrugged. Accumulate over time. There will naturally be more. Just use it. If you don't have enough, ask me for it." Vulcan nodded. After seeing Suyi's handwriting, he suddenly felt confident, a confidence that could win a championship. The dwarves at the nearby forging tables also discovered the various gems that Suyi took out as full of envy forging equipment. The materials used are similar. What really determines the quality of equipment is actually gems and various trace elements. Adding these things to the equipment can greatly change and increase the attributes of the equipment in order to achieve the effect of improving the quality of equipment. But now, the gems that Suyi took out are not only precious, but also very numerous. As long as Vulcan chooses the right gems and adds them to the equipment forging, the quality and strength of the equipment will be greatly increased and the score will naturally be higher. There are blueprints, gems, and materials. Then it's time for forging. Vulcan took out the furnace and began to smelt the materials. It was in full swing in the forging platform. A heat wave hits the face. Suyi had no choice but to push away temporarily, and waited for Vulcan to forge successfully. Of course, this is destined to be a long and waiting process. Chapter 395 Crazy Forging. Vulcan threw the ore into the furnace under the roasting of the sacred mountain fire. The furnace began to heat up. The ore thrown into the furnace also began to melt in the high temperature. The impurities in it were burned into green smoke, which floated up. And what remained in the furnace was the essence of the ore. It is also molten iron that can be used for forging equipment. The melting process is lengthy. During the time of smelting the ore, Vulcan began injection molding. The so-called injection molding is to use special sand to dig out the shape of a long sword, smelt it with ore into molten iron, and then pour the molten iron into the mold made of sand. When the molten iron cools and solidifies, it will naturally look like a long sword. Suyi sat at the back, a little bored, and looked at the other dwarf contestants. I found that they were all very busy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. The process of forging equipment at the beginning is similar. All ores are smelted and then injection molded. 2 teams of 2. One dwarf is responsible for smelting ore, and the other dwarf is responsible for injection molding, which can save a lot of time. Suyi felt a little strange when he saw it, so he asked Vulcan, "Is there anything I can do?" Vulcan glanced back at Suyi, then shook his head. "No need, Mr. Leader, just wait." Suyi shrugged and could only step back. This is also impossible. He is not a dwarf, nor has he learned any forging skills, so he knows nothing about the process of forging equipment. Vulcan also knew this very well, so he simply asked Suyi to sit aside and wait. The game was in full swing in the middle of the process. Suyi suddenly heard a bang. The sound is coming from the left. Turning his head to look over there, the corners of Suyi's eyes twitched. I saw several dwarves yelling and running around holding their heads. The furnace in which they smelt the ore has exploded. Hot molten iron splashed all over them under the super high temperature molten iron. The dwarves screamed. "Poor guy." Vulcan sighed softly. Not surprisingly, those dwarves who were scalded by molten iron had turned the match early and left the scene on Vulcan's side. After the ore is smelted into molten iron, he didn't immediately pour it into the injection mold. Instead, among the gems provided by Suyi, he chose 2 explosive gemstones and 1 flame crystal. Throw these 3 gems into the furnace. This is for additional equipment in order to exchange attributes. Vulcan only chose the fire-type blasting flame gems and flame crystals, which were quickly fused into the molten iron. At this time, the time came to 3 hours later. Vulcan repeatedly checked that the molten iron was free of impurities before taking it out of the furnace. The molten iron in the furnace is then poured into the injection mold. Regarding the smelting of molten iron, it must be ensured that there is no trace of impurities. Otherwise, once impurities are mixed into the equipment, bubbles and gaps will be formed, and it will be easily broken and scrapped during use. After the molten iron injection molding was completed, Vulcan began to soak the injection mold with cold water to accelerate cooling and let the sword body take shape, accompanied by the rising white smoke of Chi-Chi. Since then, the blade has cooled and solidified. Vulcan smashed the injection mold, and took out the sword blank from it. It has the shape of a sword, but it's just a piece of iron, so it can't be used. Next, is the most important step in the equipment forging process: forging. This is the process that tests the blacksmith skills the most. In order to ensure the toughness of the equipment, blacksmiths need to beat the blank with a hammer. This pays attention to the strength and frequency of hammering, as well as the point of force. It is one of the important factors and cannot be ignored at all. Vulcan took out his ancestral hammer from his lord's space, and began to beat the blank. Not only him, But more than 90% of the dwarves in the competition scene have already entered this stage. Take out a blank and beat it with a hammer to make the blank shape and become more tough. The sound of jingling and knocking can be heard all around. Feeling bored, Suya quietly took out food from the Lord's space and threw it into the troop ring to feed the dragon. Time flies, and a day passes in the blink of an eye. During this period, many dwarves were disqualified from the competition. As for the reasons, there are various, and Vulcan is still forging iron in order to dissipate heat. He has taken off his armor, revealing lean muscles and sexy chest hair. The hammer was raised high, and then fell heavily. There was a bang when the blank was hit. After thousands or even tens of thousands of knocks, the rough has become pure. Next, it has to be plasticized to create a real sharp sword. At this moment, the sky has darkened because the duration of the game is 10 days. During these 10 days, no matter leaving the venue for any reason will be counted as a waiver. Therefore, even if the participating dwarves want to rest, they can only stay on the field. Of course, there are also many ruthless people among them. He is not ready to rest. Vulcan, for example, is one of them. The tapping action was repeated. Sweat kept pouring out of his forehead and back. His body was exhausted, but the obsession in his heart supported him to continue, even if not for himself. For Suya, he must win the championship. The Dwarf King in the direction of the Holy Mountain has left, leaving a part of the field responsible for maintaining the continuous referee. The beating sound continued until late at night, and then under the mandatory order of the referees, it all stopped. This is to allow the contestants to get the rest they deserve in the first 7 days of the competition. Participants are not allowed to forge equipment overnight, but after 7 days, in order to catch up with some dwarves who have fallen behind. The last 3 days of the competition process will allow the dwarves to forge equipment overnight. Vulcan put down the hammer handle that he had held for more than 10 hours, and let out a long breath. Set the blank aside and lie down on the spot and start resting. In order to ensure the progress of tomorrow's work, he must get a good rest. The surroundings became quiet in an instant, and Suya took the opportunity to fall asleep. Chapter 396. Constantly refreshing ratings. One more subscription required. The next day, as soon as it was dawn, Suya was woken up by the tinkling sound of forging. Opening his eyes, Vulcan had already raised his hammer and started working, and many other contestants in the 4 weeks have already woken up and started to continue forging. Suya took out the spiritual food he had stored in the Lord's space, ate a few, and filled his stomach. Then he found a cool place to sit down and waited quietly for the fairness of the competition, before deciding to submit the work and abandoning the competition. No matter, neither Vulcan nor Suya can leave the forging platform, otherwise it will be considered cheating. So, for the next 9 days, Suya will probably stay here forever. Time passed quickly, and Vulcan repeated the action of beating and forging. It went on for 5 days in a row. Up to now, hundreds of dwarves participating teams have been expelled from the competition venue due to various strange reasons, and some dwarves have already forged the equipment and sent it to the jury. The judging table is in front of the forging area. 10 dwarves 10 years older sit here waiting quietly for the entries to be delivered soon. The equipment submitted by the first dwarf group has been sent to the judging table. That is a helmet. The whole body is jet black, exuding a strong metallic tone. After sending it to the judging table, the judges began to check one by one. Some judges even held small instruments with strange shapes in their hands. Attachment. This work comes from the internet in published books. The work is only for readers to preview. Please delete it within 24 hours of downloading. It cannot be used for commercial purposes. If you think this book is good, please buy the genuine book. Thank you for your support to the author. Key points. I hope you can keep this paragraph if you reprint it. It's a bit hard to organize, but retention is a virtue used to measure equipment. According to Vulcan's explanation, this is the equipment scorer. Put it close to the equipment, and the scorer will automatically give a score. In order to facilitate the distinction, the total is divided into 100,000 points. The equipment presented to the judges' platform is obviously not very good. Many judges shook their heads when they saw it, and they didn't even have the interest to play with it. After a while, the scores came out only a poor 8,000 points. Duan made this helmet equipment is a young dwarf. He doesn't look very old. This should be his first time participating in the forging competition. For his own score, he seems to have expected it long ago. Dejectedly left the competition site. 8,000 points. Sorry, he may not even be able to enter the top 10,000. Since this dwarf started, dwarves have gradually sent forged works to the judging table. Those who send out their works now are basically young dwarves with little experience. Their drawings are not complicated, and their workmanship is not exquisite. So it doesn't take long to forge the equipment. Of course, this level of equipment has a common, that is a low score. Chapter 265. Can't do well in the competition at all. Look at Vulcan again. This short and slender guy is still repeating the action of beating after 5 consecutive days of forging. The rough in hand already has the shape of a sword. I believe that he will be able to enter the next step in a short time. Time passed, and another 2 days passed. 7th day of today's competition. 2/3 of the tens of thousands of participating teams have left the venue. All the equipment they created were also submitted to the judging panel for scoring and testing. The piece of equipment with the highest score so far is a piece of armor with a score of 523, is currently number 1. Of course, it will only be temporary after all. There are still thousands of participating teams. Vulcan has already entered the next process. The sword in his hand has been fully formed. Even after it cooled down, it was still crimson, like a red-hot iron. Suya guessed that this should be because the sword had added explosive gemstones and flame crystals. The process after forging is called sharpening. After all, the sword is forged from blanks. Although it has the shape of a sword, the blade is extremely thick. This kind of sword has no power at all. It is just a blunt weapon with a shape. Now, all Vulcan has to do is sharpen the sword, sharpen the blade and make it sharp. Taking out the ancestral whetstone from the Lord's space, Vulcan began to sharpen it. The creaking sound was endless. Suya sat on the steps behind the forge, watching the participating dwarves who kept submitting their works one by one. Better ratings started to appear. So far, the highest score has reached 701 points. It was a pair of combat boots, and it was a very strong dwarf who made this piece of equipment. Satisfied and left. He thought he could get a good result, but soon his hopes were dashed because the next piece of equipment with a score of 70,000 has appeared, surpassing him by more than 3,000 points, easily crushing him. Seeing the applause and cheers erupting from the audience stage, Suya moved his eyes and looked around. Look in the direction of the woman. What surprised Suya was that the woman was still present, accompanied by her dwarves. Continue to forge. It is worth mentioning that the dwarf accompanied by this woman is a female dwarf. That's right, female dwarves, 5 big and 3 thick, long like a bucket, armed with a hammer. They do the same work as male dwarves. Suya had to admire a little because there are not many female dwarves participating in this kind of competition. It is less than 1/20th of all participating dwarves. More and more dwarves have finished forging and began to submit works. There are fewer and fewer people in the field, and these remaining people are the most dazzling focus of the whole game, because in every forging competition, the best works will appear at the end. Only the equipment that has experienced thousands of hammers and strikes is the real good equipment. After the 7th day, the competition will enter the sprint stage. During these days, the tournament organizers will no longer limit the dwarves' forging time. If you want, you can forge equipment all night long. That's the case with Vulcan. After 2 days of grinding, the sword in his hand already had a bright blade, the kind that showed its sharpness. Then switch to the other side and continue grinding, and it's overnight. He must finish this work before the end of the competition time, otherwise it will be considered a failure. Chapter 397, SSS-level weapon, Flame of Burst. Asking for flowers, asking for votes, asking for everything. I have to say that Vulcan's perseverance is quite good. Suya was a little surprised, but how did he know that a large part of the reason for Vulcan's persistence until now is because of what Suya said before? Suya said that Vulcan must win the championship. With Suya's words, what can Vulcan do? He is also very desperate. Brace yourselves, do it. It's late at night, and all the dwarves who are still on the field have not rested and are continuing to fight. Suya couldn't fall asleep either, so he sat aside and watched from time to time. He glanced at the direction of the judging table. The highest score of the equipment will be refreshed in real time. Now it is more than 75,000. The scoring here seems to be a hurdle, and there are very few higher scores. On the 8th day, the competition continued, and the highest score had already exceeded 80,000. It was a long spear, silver in color, shining brightly, and there were only 500 contestants left on the forging platform. The time came to the 9th day, and the competition continued. The highest score has exceeded 90,000. It is an armor, a golden armor, with super strong defense. There are still 20 contestants left on the forging platform. That's right, 20. The last 20. Vulcan is one of them. The female dwarf accompanied by the human woman was also one of them. There are still 10 hours left before the end of the game. Vulcan has finished grinding in his hand. A finished sword has appeared. However, he doesn't seem satisfied yet. When injection molding before, he deliberately reserved 2 grooves on both sides of the hilt. This is used to set gemstones. Embedding gems with special attributes on the equipment can also change and increase the characteristics of the equipment. For example, what Vulcan is going to do now, he asked Suya for 2 explosive flame gems. Carefully polish the explosive flame gems to order, and then start inlaying them. The gemstone groove is locally heated, and the gemstone is then placed after cooling down. The gems are inlaid. This process requires Vulcan to be extremely careful, otherwise, it is easy to cause the gems to break and the equipment to deform. Fortunately, he is a master blacksmith, Setting gems and so on is not a big challenge after several hours of busy work. The first explosive gem has been inlaid at this time. There are only one player left in the field. The highest equipment score has also been refreshed to 936 points. This score is already very high in previous year's competitions. This score could even win the first place, but this year there are still 8 groups on the forging table. The game is not at the last moment. This rating is likely to be refreshed again. A few more hours passed, and Vulcan successfully mounted the second gemstone. At this moment, there is still 1 hour left before the end of the competition. There are still three teams remaining in the forging table. The highest score has been refreshed to 963 points. Suyi glanced at the forging table. Besides himself and Vulcan, there were 2 other participating teams. One of the groups consisted of 2 dwarves. Another group, unexpectedly, turned out to be the female dwarves accompanied by a human lord. Now, she seems to have become the focus of the field. Even the dwarf king admired her. You could vaguely hear their conversation. It is said that no female dwarf has ever persisted until the 9th day of the competition. She is nothing short of a miracle. The countdown to the game begins. Vulcan took out the sandpaper and carefully polished every rough spot on the long sword. The team of the 2 dwarves has already submitted their work. It was a shield, cocky, covered with complicated and irregular cracks. It looked very beautiful. After submitting to the jury desk, the judges scrambled to check the equipment attributes and scores. Occasionally there was a burst of exclamation in order to ensure the mystery. This shield was not announced after the rating was released. At this moment, only Suyi and that woman's team were left in the field. The 2 looked at each other from a distance like a tacit understanding. When there are 5 minutes left in the competition time, the preparation bell has been rung. Chapter 266. The Dwarf King's voice filled the hall. There are still 5 minutes left before the end of the contest. Please hurry up. As soon as the words fell, Vulcan threw away the sandpaper in his hand and exhaled. Okay. Hearing this, Suyi got up quickly, took the long sword in Vulcan's hand, and looked it up in his hand. The shape is very cool, and the build is even more exquisite. The sword's edge is cold and extremely sharp. There are also 2 jewels inlaid on the hilt, shining brightly. Suyi released detection skills on the sword, and soon, the attribute information of the sword appeared in his mind. Burst flame level. Additional skills. Flame destroyer. Activate the skill, which can perform a flame attack on the fan-shaped area in front, causing huge damage. Explosive burning. Each attack has a 50% chance of adding a burning effect. Burning effect. Loss of 3% of the maximum life value per second, lasting for 3 seconds. 3. Can be superimposed to 3 layers. Field of fire. Wearing this sword, you can open a field of fire centered on yourself and with a radius of 100 meters during the battle. Allies in this field will increase their fire damage by 50% and are immune to enemy fire damage by 3%. Description: the sword tempered with explosive gemstones and flame crystals has extremely strong power and increases the fire attribute. Seeing this attribute, Suyi's breathing became a little heavy. Weapons. Unexpectedly level weapons. There are 3 skills attached. One is stronger than the other. There are damage skills and passive skills that add burn damage. Any attack has a 50% chance to add a burning effect, which will lose 3% of the maximum HP per second, last for 3 seconds. 3, and stack 3 layers. That's a full 27% of the most HP evaporated. How about a powerful batch? Look at the domain of flames again. With a radius of 100 meters for allies within this range, fire damage increases by 50%. It can even be immune to 30% fire damage from the enemy, although it can only increase the fire attribute and immune fire attribute. Some are single, but it's also powerful enough. The sword named Explosion Flame is so terrifying. Even Suyi wants to take this sword for himself. Chapter 398. Lan, subscribe for the 3rd watch. At this moment, there are still 3 minutes left in the game. Suyi returned the explosive flame to Vulcan. The latter took it, and together with Suyi, walked towards the judges' stand. The human woman and female dwarf on the other side also seemed to have completed the equipment forging and walked out. What they forged was also a sword different from the burst flame in Vulcan's hands. The sword in their hands was light blue, like a crystal clear ice cube. Even near the extremely high temperature forging platform, you can even see the cold air constantly escaping from the blade from this point. It is enough to see that this sword must be extraordinary. At least it's a super weapon. Both parties submitted their works to the judges' desk almost at the same time. The judges had just received the burst flame, and they were deeply attracted by the sword. But to my surprise, there was no cheering, only gasping for air, and the beeping sound of the testing equipment. Suddenly, only a click sound was heard, and a crack appeared in the test instrument in the hands of one of the judges. This scene shocked the judges. Even the Dwarf King behind the forging area and the organizers of the competition were attracted by the situation here. They all look this way. This is especially true on the audience stage. The audience stage, which was still cheering endlessly, has become completely silent at this moment, and needles can be heard. It seems that everyone is waiting for the final result to appear. The exploding flame was carefully placed on the table. The 10 judges formed a circle and carefully looked at every pattern on the sword body. Some of those lines were shaped by Vulcan, but more were formed naturally during the forging process appearing on the sword body at this moment. It looks extremely beautiful. After observing for 10 minutes, the judges dispersed. They still didn't speak, but they looked at Vulcan, as if they saw something extremely incredible. Their eyes were wide open. 2. Please step aside and rest. We will announce the score later. The voice of a dwarf staff member sounded. Vulcan nodded. He hadn't had a good rest for nearly 4 days, and his whole body was floating. The two followed the dwarf staff and went to the resting place behind the judges' platform to rest. There are not many seats here, and it seems that only after the score reaches a certain level are you eligible to sit here. When Vulcan sat down, Suyu raised his hand, took out 10 spirit fruits, and placed them in front of Vulcan. The latter was also polite, grabbed it and nodded. Seeing Vulcan gobbling it up, Suyu said, "How about it? Are you sure?" Vulcan nodded at Suyu when he heard the words. The corners of his eyes twitched. "Well, it's not bad to get the top 3. At least you have the permission to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain." While thinking, Suyu looked towards the judging panel in front of him. The 10 dwarf judges have carefully placed the explosive flame on the exhibition stand aside right now, checking out the works of the human woman and the female dwarf. Obviously, the score of that sort is not low either. The eyes of the 10 judges got bigger and bigger. What's more, he looked up and down at 2 of them directly. His eyes were full of horror. Another 10 minutes passed, and the scoring period ended. The human woman and female dwarf were taken to rest. I don't know if that human woman deliberately sat down next to Suyu. "I was surprised to meet a human like me in this place," said the woman. Suyu took the opportunity to look at the woman. She was very beautiful, and she should also be from China. A head of long black hair scattered behind his head, wearing light blue battle armor on his body, delicate face, good features, a pair of big eyes flashing with watery light, as if it can penetrate the heart of a person. "Yeah, quite a surprise," Suyu said. The woman smiled when she heard the words, and stretched out her hand to Suyu. "Well, my name is Lan Lan, and I'm from West China." Seeing the white and tender little hand stretched out in front of her, Suyu gently shook it. "Suyu, the Lord of the Central Region." After finishing speaking, Suyu tried hard to search for the name Lan Lan in his mind. Judging from Lan Lan's behavior and the equipment on her body, she is by no means weak, and if it wasn't for the weak, then Suyu should have memories in his mind. But after much deliberation, Suyu never expected that there would be a strong man named Lan Lan. On the contrary, Lan Lan, when she heard Suyu's name, at first she felt that the name was a bit familiar, but soon, she seemed to remember something, and reached out her hand to cover her small mouth. "My God, you are Suyu, that? Suyu who won the first place in the event Secret Realm? Didn't expect to meet you here." The corners of Suyu's eyes twitched. "Damn, is he so famous? Even people in the northwestern region know about it." But Suyu didn't want to expose himself so quickly before he figured out what the hell this Lan Lan was. Identity of immediately shaking his head, he pretended to be confused and said, "That? Suyu and I just have the same name. I'm not as strong as him." As soon as these words came out, Lan Lan frowned. "Is it the same name?" "I don't believe it." Suyu shrugged, just about to say a word of disbelief. At this moment, the dwarf king in the direction of the Holy Mountain stood up and began to speak. "Everyone, this dwarf forging competition has come to a successful conclusion. Our judges have scored and ranked all the entries. To my surprise, this competition is really Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and many dark horses appeared. The equipment they created has refreshed the history of the dwarf forging competition. Now, please invite our judges to start announcing the points ranking." Let's just say, out of the 10 judges, a representative was sent to climb the Holy Mountain, holding a list in his hand. The above is the ranking of the competition. Chapter 399. 99,999 points. 1 update for subscription. I will announce the top 10 works in this competition. Please listen carefully. 10th place, Troy Team, equipped with Lightning Halberd, with a score of 863. 9th place, Zhuge Team, equipped with Black Magic Armor, with a score of 872. 8th place and 3rd place, Rock Squad, equipped with the Earth Shield, with a score of 972. After the judges said this, the audience and resting stands were quiet. Almost everyone held their breath. Needless to say, the most precious reward in this dwarf forging competition is to enter the Holy Mountain for enlightenment. This has a fatal attraction for every dwarf blacksmith, even Suyu, a foreigner, has become very interested in this, and to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain, what is needed is to get the top 3 in the forging competition. Now, the third place has appeared, which is the last dwarf team in the competition. Their cocky shields are quite powerful. They took one of the places to enter the Holy Mountain. At this moment, the 2 dwarves of this huge team are hugging each other excitedly. Then, the representatives of the judges began to announce the second place in the competition, that is, the second place that can enter the interior of the Holy Mountain. Second place in this competition. The field returned to calm again, and everyone was waiting for the answer. Second place, it comes from Gwyneth's team. Equipped with a black ice sword, with a score of 999, with a bang, the audience was in an uproar. 9 points are only 1 point away, which is the set full score of 100,000 points. The tens of thousands of spectators on the audience stage were also discussing at the moment, oh my god, who is this Gwen's 99 points? This has already refreshed the history of the dwarf forging competition. Chapter 267. It sounds like the name should be a woman. Could it be that, the woman who persisted until the end? I think it's her, a female dwarf, who can create equipment with a score of 999, which is simply a miracle. Haha, who said that we female dwarves can only bear children and brew beer? We can also be blacksmiths, and we are stronger than you male dwarves. Wait, the second place in the competition already has 999 points, so what is the score of the first place? 100,000 points. This voice sounded, and the surrounding cheers fell silent in an instant. That's right, just for the second place, the score has already reached 999 points, so the first place with a score higher than 999 points. What is the score? Is it 100,000 points? All the dwarves who realized this problem were quiet. It's terrifying to think about it. The dwarf forging competition has been held more than 200 times. The previous peak score record was more than 9 points. This time, a score of 999 appeared directly, completely crushing it. However, this is not the scariest thing yet. The scariest thing is that this score of 999 is not the first place above 999 points. There is a rating. So, what is this rating, and which forging group does it belong to? On the rest table, Lan smiled, and patted the female dwarf next to her. Gwen's, you did a good job. Gwyneth chuckled, thanks to the mysterious ice element provided by my sister. Otherwise, I would not be able to forge the mysterious ice sword. Needless to say, the second place with a score of 999 is these two. Both of them are very happy, but Vulcan is a little worried. There are only 3 3s to enter the Holy Mountain. The first and the second are not him. Could it be that under the third? But how could he guarantee it? Under the huge pressure, Vulcan's body trembled a little. This strong dwarf, who has been fighting for 10 days, is actually scared at this last moment. Suya sighed and patted Vulcan's shoulder. Wait a little longer, maybe the last place is us. Vulcan swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and tremblingly said, I hope so, but the score of the second place is already as high as 999. Can my explosion flame score exceed this number? This is what Vulcan is most worried about. He is confident that the score of burst flame will definitely not be low. However, the second place is already 999 points. This is almost an insurmountable value. How can he guarantee that his points are higher than this 999 points? Suya was also silent, staring at the direction of the Holy Mountain. Finally, the representative of the judges spoke. Now, I will announce the first place in this competition. As he said that, the representative of the judges took a deep breath and continued, the equipment and points forged by the first place, I will temporarily conceal it. Let me tell you who it is. It is the Vulcan team. After the words fell, Vulcan on the rest platform suddenly widened his eyes. Go first, leader. I am number 1, and I am actually number 1. Vulcan was overjoyed. If it wasn't for the sake of face, he really wanted to get into Suya's arms and act like a baby. When Suya heard this result, he was a little unexpected. After all, the burst flame is a super weapon that has been smelted, forged, and inlaid with many gemstones. Even he was hungry. It doesn't make sense that the score will be lower than Lan's Zuanbing's sword. However, what makes Suya a little puzzled is why the judges' representatives hide the points of the explosive sword. Is there something tricky about it? Lan, at this moment, also saw that the first place in this competition is Suya. Next to him immediately raised the corners of his lips. Congratulations. Suya nodded, did not speak, but quietly waited for the judge's representative to announce the final score. This bastard has a great ability to whet the appetite. Even Suya's emotions were mobilized. The audience on the stage was full of curses, urging the representatives of the judges to tell the final points quickly. They are also very curious. This is beyond the score of 999. How much is 999 points? But there seems to be no decimal point in the scores of the competition. Is that 100,000 points? In 100 years, no one can surpass this score. Just when everyone on the field started to get irritable, the representative of the judges on the Holy Mountain finally spoke. Chapter 400, record-breaking 150,000 points, subscription for the second watch, asking for flowers, asking for tickets, asking for everything. The first Vulcan team, equipped with bursting flames, with a score of 150,236, as soon as the words fell, the irritable dwarves on the field shut up instantly. The arena returned to that silent state on the rest platform. Vulcan, who was excited to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain for winning the first place, was also stunned. What the hell is the score of explosive flame as high as 150,000? Isn't the total score of the forging competition 100,000? This score is not only more than 100,000, but also more than half of it. This is fake. What's the situation? Gwyneth, who was sitting not far away, exhaled softly. He turned his head and looked in Vulcan's direction. Vulcan was also stunned. Even Suyi, his face was frozen. This is like an exam, a paper with a total score of 100 points. You got 150 points on the exam. This is theoretically impossible. Sure enough, after a short period of silence, the dwarves in the audience erupted. A secret operation? This is a secret operation, that? Vulcan must have bribed the judges. The total score of the forging competition has always been 100,000 points. How did you get the 150,000 points? This is unfair to other contestants. I hope the judges will re-examine the works of the Vulcan team. Please give us an explanation, and give other contestants an explanation. The most clamoring ones were the family members of those participating teams. Everyone has the disease of eye redness, but it is not serious, seeing that Vulcan actually forged a sword with a score of 150,000. These people couldn't help being excited because it's nothing short of a miracle, impossible miracle. The dwarves on the Holy Mountain seem to have expected this to happen. The representative of the judges hurriedly shouted loudly, "Everyone be quiet, please listen to me, everyone be quiet." But how could his words overwhelm the shouts of tens of thousands of dwarves in the auditorium? Not many people responded to him at all. Almost more than 80% of the shorts are shouting and asking the judges to remark. In desperation, the judge's representative had no choice but to choose the Dwarf King. The latter has a very high prestige in the Dwarf Kingdom in this case. I am afraid that the only way to calm down the scene. Sure enough, the Dwarf King let out a loud shout, on the spot, immediately quiet, everyone, be safe and don't be impatient. The judges can make 0 mistakes, let alone operate in the dark. Listen to the judges first. After saying that, the Dwarf King winked at the representatives of the judges beside him. The latter understood, and hurriedly said, as the king said, "We, the judges, cannot make mistakes." The explosion flame forged by Vulcan's team has added more than 10 attribute gems, and there are 2 gems inlaid on the hilt. A complete blasting gem makes the fire attribute of this sword very strong, and its rank has reached a terrifying level. As soon as the words came out, the dwarves looked at each other. More than a dozen gemstones are inlaid with complete gemstones, and the grade has reached the first level. If these conditions are all true, then the explosion, it is not completely impossible for Yan to have a score of 150,000. Lan besides Suyi was also shocked when she heard this. Ultra-level weapons, Sky, Zuanbing sword and other levels are only level. Suyi glanced at Lan and waved his hand. Small, don't get too excited. Lan rolled her eyes in so little meaning. Do you know how rare super equipment is, especially the kind of super equipment that has more than a dozen gems in it? I'm afraid the real grade has already surpassed the ordinary super equipment. The judges on the Holy Mountain continued to explain. The points of the explosion flames are tested by our machine, not our judges' estimation, and they are actually used to test the equipment points machine. The full score is not 100,000 points, but 200,000. It's just because no one has ever exceeded 100,000 points, so we set the full score of the competition as 100,000 points. But today, this 100,000 point breakthrough, the Vulcan team has forged equipment with a score of over 150,000 points. This is a breakthrough, and it is even more a miracle. So, I hope everyone can accept the fact that the first place in the competition is the Vulcan team. After the judges' representatives spoke, the dwarves on the audience stage became quite quiet. Perhaps this is the truth. Seeing that no one was making trouble anymore, the Dwarf King spoke again. According to the rules of this competition, the top 3 in the competition can get the opportunity to enter the interior of the Holy Mountain for enlightenment. The competition has just ended, and the participants in the 3 groups must have been exhausted, so you will have 3 days of rest. In 3 days, I will open the holy mountain." With that, the Dwarf King turned and left. The representative of the judges took over the conversation and began to explain the rewards. As long as the dwarf group that has obtained the corresponding ranking will be rewarded, the rewards will be sent to their residences according to the address that the dwarves registered for. So now, the participating dwarves can leave early and go home to rest. Vulcan, who is on the rest platform, collapsed on the stone stool, and exhaled a long breath. "It's so exciting. I didn't expect that I turned out to be the champion." Suyi stood up. "Okay, let's go back first, take a good rest. 3 days later, the highlight will be." Vulcan nodded and got up immediately. On the other side, Lan Lan and Gwyneth are already preparing to leave. "First place, see you in 3 days. Lan Lan smiled. There was a complex look in those big eyes, which made Suyi frown a little. He always felt that it was no coincidence that Lan Lan appeared here. Most of them came with a purpose, just like myself. So, what is it that can attract Lan Lan? Probably only the things in the Dwarf Holy Mountain." After bidding farewell to Lan Lan, Suyi and Vulcan boarded the train back to Vulcan's small castle. This competition has made Vulcan a star in the Dwarf Kingdom. On the way home, dwarves kept coming to strike up a conversation. There are also many female dwarves who worship Vulcan. Made Suyi on the side feel ashamed. Chapter 401. Entering the Holy Mountain. It was also the first time for Vulcan to encounter such a situation. It's a pity that Suyi is by his side, otherwise, he really wants to kiss Fangs. After rejecting the courtship of more than a dozen female dwarves, Vulcan took Suyi back to his residence. Chapter 268. Here, a large number of dwarves have already gathered. Gray is among them. After seeing Vulcan, Gray stepped forward and gave him a big bear hug. "Congratulations, you have finally fulfilled your dream." Vulcan looked respectful and nodded towards Gray. "This is also thanks to everyone's help." The surrounding dwarves who knew Vulcan stepped forward to congratulate him. Vulcan broke the record of the dwarf forging contest, which will be recorded in history. In other words, Vulcan will be famous in the history of the Dwarf Kingdom for such an existence. Those who are interested will naturally come forward to curry favor. After sending all the dwarves away, Vulcan brought Suyi into the castle, then start to rest. He was already exhausted. 10 consecutive days of forging was not only a huge test for his body, but also a temper for his spirit. Fortunately, Vulcan persisted, and he completed the entire forging process, which lasted 10 days. After eating something casually, Vulcan entered the room and fell asleep. The snoring sound was deafening, making Suyi a little ashamed. After walking around the castle, he also returned to his room and began to sleep. He didn't have a good rest at the forging platform in the Holy Mountain before. Once the two of them slept, they slept for 2 full days. I didn't wake up until the 3rd day. At this time, a dwarf happened to bring the prizes of the competition. The rewards are very rich. In addition to the burst flame that originally belonged to Vulcan, there are also resources, ores, rare gems, blueprints and other things. In terms of resources, there are indeed quite a lot. 3 billion ore is a special ore of some dwarven kingdoms, which can be used to forge equipment. Then there are some rare gems, which are taken from the treasure house of the Dwarf Kingdom, which are also particularly precious. Finally, there are blueprints. There are more than a dozen of them, and the equipment drawn on each one is not low level. Vulcan was also polite and put away these things. Then he took out the exploding flame and handed it to Suyi. "Leader, this sword is for you." Suyi's face turned pale, and he gave himself. "You can bear the pain to give up love." Suyi joked. Vulcan nodded heavily. "Baoji action. This sword can only exert its due power in the hands of the Alliance. Secondly, without the help of the Alliance leader's gems, it is impossible to forge this sword. Indeed, most of the reason why the explosion flame score is so high is because of the gems provided by Suyi. There are more than a dozen gems smelted into the sword. It increases the attributes of the sword. This greatly increased the score of the sword. Otherwise, even with Vulcan's superb forging technology, he could forge the burst flame and get a good ranking, but it would never be as exaggerated as 150,000 points. In other words, Suyi's contribution to the production of this burst flame, it can even be said to be bigger than Vulcan. Seeing the sincerity of Vulcan's words, Suyi was not polite, took the explosion flame, waved it a few times in his hand, and could clearly feel the fire energy surging within the sword. Sure enough, it is worthy of being a super weapon, and it can just replace Suyi's current flowing sword. Of course, Suyi would not let Vulcan suffer. After accepting the explosion flame, he also took out some gems and handed them to Vulcan. In exchange, "These are for you." Naturally, Vulcan would not be polite to Suyi and put away those gems. Then, The two of them took a rest and headed to the Holy Mountain again under the leadership of a dwarf. The 3 days that the Dwarf King agreed upon are almost here. It is also time to go near the Holy Mountain and wait for the opening of the Holy Mountain. Sitting on the train, bang 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 bang. Compared with the last trip to the Holy Mountain, the train to the Holy Mountain this time is much quieter, and there are not so many people. After half an hour, the train stopped. Suyi and Vulcan got off the train and went straight to the foot of the Holy Mountain. After they got there, they realized that Lan Lan and Gwyneth had already arrived. The two met and greeted each other warmly after waiting at the same spot for a short time. The stubborn stone team that created the Earth Shield also arrived. All 3 members of Team 3 have arrived. The Dwarf King appeared immediately, and he scanned the 6 people in front of him. 6. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for winning the top 3 places in this competition. According to the competition rules, the top 3 teams can enter the Holy Mountain for enlightenment. This is a lucky thing for every dwarf blacksmith here. I hope that after entering the interior of the Holy Mountain, you will cherish this opportunity and learn about the forging skills of our ancestors. You will stay inside the Holy Mountain for 7 days. After 7 days, the Holy Mountain will be opened again. At that time, when you come out again, do you understand? Everyone nodded to show their understanding. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, the Dwarf King winked at a burly dwarf behind him. The latter understood and pressed a certain switch on the Holy Mountain, accompanied by the rattling sound of friction. In front of Suyi and the others, a huge and heavy stone door was lifted up rumblingly, revealing a passage leading to the interior of the Holy Mountain. Go in, everyone. I hope you all have some insights. The Dwarf King had something to say. Suyi and the others were also polite. After looking at each other, Kiki walked towards the inside of the Holy Mountain. As soon as 6 people entered the body, the raised stone door was lowered again, isolates Suyi and others from the outside world. Outside the stone gate, the Dwarf King looked at the closed stone gate with his hands behind his back. Thoughtfully behind him, another gray-haired old dwarf appeared. Is it really okay for you to let 2 alien humans enter the Holy Mountain? Asked the old dwarf. The Dwarf King sighed. Did you forget the letter left by the Titan? Maybe these 2 foreigners are the key to unlocking the secret. Chapter 402. The Mysterious Stone Chamber. The white-haired old dwarf didn't speak when he heard the words, I just prayed secretly in my heart. Everyone who entered the interior of the Holy Mountain can really achieve the goal of the Dwarf King. The Dwarf King waited for a long time, as if he was thinking about something. An hour later, he left without a word outside the stone gate of the Holy Mountain. There are only a few dwarf warriors who are responsible for guarding the place on the other side. Suyi and others have already entered the interior of the Holy Mountain. What appeared in front of them at this moment was a long corridor. It's very long and doesn't even have an end on the walls. On both sides of the corridor, some oil lamps are installed to provide lighting for the entire corridor. Besides, what the 6 people felt was only heat. That's right, it's hot. There is a very violent ground fire under the Holy Mountain, enough to support tens of thousands of forging platforms outside. The inside of the Holy Mountain is surrounded by those ground fires. Although there is a thick stone wall as a resistance, one can still feel the terrifying temperature seeping in from the stone wall. After only a few minutes in, Suyi and the others broke out in sweat. Many strands of Lan Lan's black hair were stuck to her forehead, which invisibly added a touch of beauty. What to do now? Lan Lan asked suddenly. Her eyes turned around. Gwyneth, Vulcan, and the 2 dwarves of the stone team. The Holy Mountain belongs to the dwarves. They should know more about the situation here. A dwarf of the stone team said contemptuously. There is only one road ahead. Of course it is going forward. With that said, the 2 of them quickly walked towards the other end of the corridor. Looking at their eyes, it seems that they are somewhat hostile to Suyi and Lan Lan. It can't be called hostility. Anyway, it's that kind of guarded feeling. Watching the 2 dwarves of the stone team leave, Suyi winked at Lan Lan. Let's go too. It's not a problem to stay here forever. It's too hot nearby. The kind that most people can't bear at all. Even the helpless Lan Lan took out a Zuanbing sword and held it in her arms to lower the temperature of her body. The 4 of them walked forward, observing everything in the corridor while walking. Have you ever been here before? Suyi asked. Vulcan and Gwyneth shook their heads when they heard this. Then I've always heard about the dwarves who were lucky enough to enter the Holy Mountain to learn about things here. Suyi continued to ask, but Vulcan still shook his head. I tried to talk to the dwarf who entered the body and realized what happened here, but he concealed everything here. Suyi was speechless, and Lan Lan, who was made with such a secret measure, was also surprised, and asked, don't you guys have nothing about the Holy Mountain? Gwyneth coughed lightly. To be exact, it's not. Every dwarf blacksmith who entered the interior of the Holy Mountain has more or less gained something. Suyi was speechless for a while again. What kind of clue is this? The 4 of them continued to walk forward, thinking that the surrounding temperature would drop, but they didn't know that the further they walked, the higher the temperature the current four people for. It is not an exaggeration to say that they are sweating profusely, especially the two humans Suyi and Lan Lan. They are not like Vulcan and Gwens. These two are dwarves who make a living by foraging. They are roasted at high temperature day and night, and their bodies have long developed the characteristics of high temperature resistance. However, Suyi and Lan Lan did not have this characteristic. What should I do now? I feel that the surrounding area is getting hotter and hotter, Lan Lan said helplessly. Suyi looked at the still endless corridor. Then it seems that we should hurry up. There is only one road in front of us, and we can only go forward. After all, he quickened his pace. Vulcan quickly followed. Chapter 269. Seeing this, Lan Lan felt extremely uncomfortable physically, but she could only keep up. Perhaps as Suyi said, the way out is ahead. The stone gate of the Holy Mountain is closed and will only be opened after 7 days. Therefore, it is unrealistic to go back, only to go forward. The facts were as expected by Suyi. Four passed through a section of ultra-high temperature tunnel. A stone chamber appeared at the end of the corridor, a very large stone chamber. As soon as they entered the stone room, the four of them felt the temperature drop suddenly. Suyi looked at the 444 corners of the stone room, and found that there were some light blue gemstones placed in the 444 corners of the stone room. It should be some kind of cold gem, which suppressed the temperature here. The body was a little tired, and the four of them sat down quickly, rest at the same time, take out the water bottles from their respective lord spaces and start replenishing water. Looking around, but did not find the two dwarves of the obstinate stone squat. Presumably, these two guys have already left. After resting for 10 minutes, Suyi stood up and began to look at the stone room in front of him. It's huge, about the size of a football field. On the four walls of the stone chamber, there is a corridor respectively. Except for the corridor that came in just now, there are 3 third corridors that Suyi and others have not set foot in because no one came to the stone room for a long time. The ground was covered with dust from the analysis of the footprints. The two dwarves of the stone team walked towards the west corridor. No one is entering the corridors on the north and east for the time being. So, where are the places where these corridors lead to? Is there something different? Suyi thought to himself at the same time. Look around as much as possible, trying to find any information about Titans. Not to mention, he found so many of them on the stone wall to the east. There are some relief sculptures. The meaning displayed on the relief seems to be a Titan teaching the dwarves to forge equipment. Suyi turned his head and looked at the walls facing the north and west, but he saw the same relief then. This kind of relief should not be used as a clue. Just when Suyi was about to look away and look for some other clues, he suddenly focused his eyes and looked carefully at the reliefs on the east wall. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. No. The Titan stone carvings on the four walls are different. They still have some differences. Chapter 403. Lan Lan, we were deceived, begging for flowers, begging for tickets, begging for everything. At this moment, Lan Lan, Gwyneth, and Vulcan also started to disperse, observing and scanning everything in the stone room, trying to find some clues, so that the next path for me will become clearer. And Suyi, at this moment, is secretly looking at a certain place on the relief on the east wall. That's where the Titan's eyes are. There appears to be a small black dot. It's only about the size of a little finger, so you can't spot it if you don't look carefully. The little black dot seemed to be a switch, the kind that could be pressed, which caught Suyi's attention. Is this the point? Suyi thought to himself. He wisely kept quiet because he guessed that Lan Lan's purpose might be the same as his own. They're all for the Titans. If this is the case, there is only one template for the Titan arms, and the two are bound to be rivals. Suyi was naturally wary of his opponent, let alone him. Even if Lan Lan found some clues, I believe she would not reveal them easily. Suyi secretly noted down the position of the little black dot, and then moved his steps. Then when I subconsciously looked at the little black dot again, something miraculous happened. The little black dot has disappeared. That's right, it's gone, completely disappeared. In general, this made Suyi a little strange, and quickly returned to the position just now. Look again. The little black dot appeared again. Is it only in this position that the small black dot can be observed? Suyi thought secretly in his heart. He looked down at the stone bricks under his feet in order to verify his conjecture. He changed several positions, but found that he could not see the existence of the small black dot, only standing at the position of that stone brick. Can you see the little black dot in this way? Suyi understood there must be something wrong with this little black dot. Just thinking about the connection between the little black dot and the Titan. Footsteps came from behind Suyi. Looking back, it was Lan Lan who came over. This guy looked confused. She looked at Suyi. Did you find anything? Suyi shook his head. No. Except for the corridor we just entered, the other 3 corridors seem to be the same. In order to prevent Lan Lan from finding out about the little black spot, Suyi always stood on that floor tile when speaking, and refused to move his position to the death. Lan Lan nodded when she heard the words. It seems to be so. Since that's the case, let's each choose a corridor to go in. After finishing speaking, Lan Lan greeted Gwen's and headed for the north road. Let's go north. Hearing this, Suyi breathed a sigh of relief. The north side is good. The east side is his. In order to cover up his discovery of Zhaoking, Suyi also greeted Vulcan and walked eastward. Sure enough, Lan Lan seemed to be worried about Suyi, and when she was walking towards the north corridor, she kept secretly looking at Suyi. I'm afraid he's still here. When I saw Suyi leading Phil into the east corridor, Lan Lan felt relieved, and led Gwyneth into the northern corridor. Inside the east corridor, Suyi asked Vulcan while walking, have you found any clues? Vulcan shook his head. No, everything looks the same. Suyi hummed, and suddenly stopped in her tracks. The face of Vulcan next to him changed slightly, and he hurriedly asked, what's wrong? Suyi turned around and walked towards the stone room. Let's go back. Vulcan was stunned, and when he was about to ask why, he saw Suyi make a silent gesture in desperation. I had no choice but to shut up. At the same time, he lowered his voice and quietly followed Suyi back to the previous stone room. There is no one here. Lan Lan and the others also left. Suyi found the previous floor tile, stood on it, and then looked towards the relief. The little black dot is still there. It's just that the position of the small black spot is a bit high, on the wall more than 10 meters away. How can I touch this little black spot? Finally, Suyi found a way and took out a spiritual fruit from the Lord's space. Aim at the small black dot and throw it hard. With a whoosh, the spirit fruit turned into an after image and flew straight to where the little black dot was. With a click, it successfully hit the small black dot. The next moment, Suyi, the ground under Vulcan's feet began to shake, make a booming sound. Vulcan was unsteady and almost fell to the ground. What happened? Vulcan lowered his voice. Suyi didn't speak, just scanned the surroundings, hoping to find something different. Soon, he discovered that the ground under his feet seemed to be rising. It's like an elevator supporting Suyi and Vulcan. They ascended towards a higher level. We are being raised, Suyi said, focusing on everything around him at the same time. Lan Lan and Gwyneth, who had already walked into the northern corridor, also heard the movement behind them, and their expressions changed drastically. Damn, we were cheated. Lan Lan was the first to react without saying a word. He ran towards the stone chamber. Gwyneth quickly followed, but she didn't understand what Lan Lan meant by that. Who was cheated? Who tricked the two of them to run wildly for a minute and successfully arrived at the entrance of the corridor? Lan Lan glanced at the stone room in front of her, and when she saw the situation, she couldn't help frowning because the stone chamber in front of me is exactly the same as the one just now. It seems that there is no change. Coincidentally, at this time, the noise also ended. Suyi and Vulcan were also missing. So here comes the question, where did the noise just come from? Who made it, and why it made it strange? It doesn't look like it has changed from just now. Lan Lan frowned as soon as the words finished. Gwyneth beside her suddenly said, no, it's not the same. This place is different from just now. Hearing this, Lan Lan instantly became alert, and glanced at the stone chamber in front of her again. Immediately, her staring was, you mean, footprints on the ground? Chapter 270. Gwyneth nodded, that's right, this stone chamber doesn't have any footprints left by us, so it shouldn't be the one just now. Chapter 404. The stone chamber that can be moved. Lan Lan glanced at the stone chamber in front of her, her eyebrows frowned. She didn't know how the noise was caused, but what she was sure of was that the stone room in front of her was not the one she and Gwyneth had visited just now. The footprints that have disappeared on the ground are enough to prove all this. What exactly is going on? Lan Lan was bewildered. Gwyneth also had a similar expression, trying to return to that stone chamber, scanning everything around, trying to find some clues. Lan Lan also followed. At this moment, she was already deep in thought. There are three groups of people who entered the interior of the holy mountain, and these three groups of people should not be separated. In other words, three groups of people will be three small dots with three actions. What can be confirmed so far is that three groups of people entered the stone chamber from the south corridor. The obstinate stone team headed towards the west corridor first, but they don't know what the result will be. Suyi took Vulcan towards the east corridor, which Lan Lan saw with her own eyes. The last northern corridor is where Lan Lan and Gwen's entered, but not long after the two walked in, there was a sound from the direction of the stone room. Puzzled, Lan Lan and Gwyneth hurried towards this side. Then they saw the scene in front of them. The stone chamber is no longer the stone chamber. So now comes the problem. What happened to the stone chamber here? Second, who exactly caused the changes in the stone chamber here? In other words, the stone chamber made the noise by itself and changed its position. Just as he was thinking about it, Gwen's in front of him suddenly spoke. I guess the stone chamber just now should have moved upwards. Lan expression changed, and she quickly ran to Gwyneth's side. How to say, what did you find? Gwen's pointed to a corner of the stone room and said, look here. Lan looked intently and found a scratch moving upwards. It's like the effect of an elevator moving up and down. If the scratch is real, it's gone. The stone chamber made a noise just now, but it was actually the stone chamber moving upwards. So, who triggered the mechanism that moves the stone chamber upwards? Or, who rode the stone chamber to the upper floor? Then who do you think went up? Lan asked. Gwyneth scanned the corridors around her, and suddenly her eyes lit up. Just look at the footprints in the past. We can be sure that the stone chamber that was moved just now, and the corridor is still there. There should be our footprints in the corridor. Just look at the number and direction of the footprints. When Lan heard the words, she instantly understood what Gwyneth meant. The two quickly ran towards the west corridor. Only 2 rows of forward feet can be seen. Obviously, they are left by the rock squad. There are no traces of returning, which means that the 2 dwarves of the obstinate squad have not returned. After confirming the result, the 2 ran to the east corridor. Here, they found clues. There are 4 rows of footprints in the corridor. That's right. 4 rows. 2 rows go forward and 2 rows come back, and the east corridor is for Suyi and Vulcan. In other words, Vulcan and Suyi walked a certain distance towards the east corridor, and then came back. Then some mechanism was triggered, which caused the stone chamber to rise. This Suyi. Lan was a little angry. She guessed that Suyi must have discovered something long ago, but she didn't tell herself. After he and Gwyneth entered the northern passage, they returned to the stone chamber and allowed the entire stone chamber to climb upwards. Now what? Gwyneth asked. Although she is a dwarf, it is also the first time for her to enter the Holy Mountain. Not only that, she doesn't even know what's inside the Holy Mountain. Everything here is very strange to her, not to mention Lan. Monk Sanger was simply confused. Lan didn't say anything when she heard the words, but just stood there and meditated. Finally, he sighed softly. Suyi and Vulcan can move the stone chamber upwards. It must have triggered some mechanism. Let's look for it first to see if there is a mechanism that can be triggered. If not, let's enter the northern corridor. Gwyneth nodded. There was no other way, so the 2 began to search in this stone room, find the same organ that allows the stone chamber to move upwards. But will they find it? At the same time, Suyi and Vulcan have successfully reached the upper floor. The stone chamber has not changed. What has changed is the surrounding corridors. There are only 2 corridors. Where should we go? Vulcan asked, scanning his surroundings. There are only 2 corridors on the south and north sides. Suyi looked calm, glanced at it and replied, look again, see if there is a mechanism. According to his guess, this is likely to be a screening mechanism. You can only go up if you find a specific organ, and the more you go up, the fewer the number of corridors. When there is only 1 corridor left, there is naturally no choice. Just go straight into that corridor with the experience of the next floor. Suyi and Vulcan searched quickly, not missing any corner of the stone room. In this way, the 2 of them were busy for half an hour. Finally, Suyi found out where the little black dot was again. This time it was on the ceiling of the stone chamber. There, too, is a Titan statue. Press the small black dot in the same way as before. The stone chamber is activated again. Running towards a higher level, Suyi and Vulcan squatted down to ensure that their bodies would not fall in. On the other side, where Lan and Gwyneth are, the previous sound came again, making the 2 of them change color. What's going on? The stone chamber seems to have moved again. Gwyneth crouched down. Lan frowned and clenched her fists. It must be Suyi. He has found the mechanism again. All of a sudden, Lan couldn't help feeling a little anxious. In fact, Suyi's guess before was correct. Lan came to the Dwarf Kingdom and helped Gwen's win the first place in the Dwarf Forging Competition. Chapter 405, The Elevator Effect. And her purpose, like Suyi's, is to come for the Titan Arms template. Her acquaintance with Gwyneth is not quite the same as that of Suyi and Vulcan. Gwen's is kind-hearted, and she saved Lan's territory by a coincidence in the early days of the Lord's era. Since then, the 2 have known each other and become allies. After becoming an ally, Lan once visited Gwyneth's tribe. That's when I found out about Titan later. I heard that Gwyneth was going back to the Dwarf Kingdom to participate in the Dwarf Forging Competition. It was only then that Lan came along, and the purpose of her coming is precisely for the Titans. It's a pity that after reaching the last step and successfully entering the interior of the Holy Mountain, her progress seemed to be slower than Suyi's. How could this be so frustrating? Lan gave up the search for the mechanism. First of all, let's not say that this agency must be very secretive. Secondly, the agency has been dispatched by Suyi. Whether it still exists or not is one thing, but just when Lan was about to leave here with Gwen spoke. There, it seems something is different. When Lan Lan heard this, her heart moved, and she hurried to Gwyneth's side, looking in the direction she was pointing. Sure enough, on the relief of the Titan that Gwyneth pointed to, a small black dot loomed. Could this be an institution? Lan Lan frowned. Gwyneth shook her head. Not sure, let's try to find out. Lan Lan had no objection. Dang even started to think of a way to trigger this little black spot. After thinking about it, she followed the same method as Suya. Take out an object and use the smashing method to trigger the small black dot. Just smash the little black spot off the stone chamber. Moved. Start climbing up. Realizing the scene, Lan Lan smiled. It seems that it is so. We should be able to catch up with Suya soon. Gwyneth was also very happy, waiting for the stone room to stop afterwards. I am going to look for the mechanism that will allow the stone room to climb again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271. Soon, the stone chamber stopped. There are only 2 corridors around. There are only 2 corridors left, Gwyneth yelled when she found out about the situation. Lan Lan glanced around. It was really weird. There is only 1 corridor connecting the stone chamber. One is on the north side and one is on the south side. Immediately, Lan Lan looked a little excited, stood up, and ran to the side. Hurry up, look again, see if there is any mechanism that can be touched. Gwyneth nodded, not daring to be lazy, and hastily used the method just now to scan the reliefs on the surrounding walls inch by inch. Try to find something on the other side. Suyi and Vulcan have successfully boarded the 3rd floor. It was exactly as Suyi had expected. There is only 1 passage left here. That means there is no choice. There's only 1 passage left, Vulcan exclaimed. Suyi nodded, and still checked the surrounding reliefs to see if there were any traps. After all, he had just heard the sound coming from under his feet. If he guessed correctly, it must be Lan Lan, Gwen's, or one of the stone team that triggered the switch of the stone room. That's why the stone chamber climbed upwards. If Suya can still find the mechanism in this stone room now, then he will climb up without hesitation. It's a pity that he and Vulcan searched for a long time, but they didn't find even a single clue. In desperation, the two had no choice but to walk towards the only corridor. After entering the corridor for a while, suddenly a schematic diagram on the stone wall attracted the attention of the 2 of them. Master, look at this. Vulcan stopped first. Suyi followed a location pointed by Vulcan. I saw that in front of the 2 of them was a schematic diagram in the shape of a pyramid, on which was drawn a structure similar to that of an elevator. There are also some corridors and so on. There are also some words written in the Dwarf Kingdom beside it. Suyi can't understand, but after Vulcan finished reading it, he showed an expression of sudden understanding. So that's how it is? Suyi hurriedly asked. What exactly does this mean? Vulcan did not dare to hide anything, and told the whole story. It turns out that the meaning shown in this picture is actually nothing but the way the stone chamber operates through the dual expression of murals and text. Vulcan said the interior of the entire Holy Mountain can be regarded as a building. After entering the interior of the Holy Mountain from the south corridor on the 1st floor, there will be corridors leading to the other 3 directions. This is a choice. After triggering the mechanism in the stone chamber, the stone chamber will move towards the 2nd floor. On the 2nd floor, there are only 2 corridors. There will also be organs on the 2nd floor. After triggering it, you will go to the 3rd floor, which is the floor where Suyi and Vulcan are now. There is only 1 tunnel left because there is only 1 passage to run the stone chamber. Therefore, once you have a stone chamber above you, the stone chamber below cannot be moved. In other words, if there is a stone chamber above your head, then the stone chamber on the floor below you has no trigger mechanism. This is why when Suyi and Vulcan were on the 2nd floor, and Lan Lan and Gwen's were on the 1st floor, no matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find the mechanism that could trigger it because the passage was blocked by the stone room where Suyi and Vulcan were. I can't go up the stone chamber below. After listening to Vulcan's narration, the corners of Suyi's lips curled up. Then if you say that, we are the only ones who can enter the 3rd floor. Vulcan nodded. Theoretically so. After all, without the existence of the 4th floor, the stone chambers of Suyi and Vulcan could no longer move upwards, and the stone chamber cannot be moved, so naturally Lan Lan and Gwyneth on the next floor cannot move either. Then Suyi seemed to think of something again, and then asked, Then did it say that there are any differences between the corridors of different floors? Vulcan shook his head upon hearing this. I didn't mention that. Suyi shrugged. Okay then, we can only reveal the secret by ourselves. Let's go. With that said, Suyi took the lead and walked deep into the northern corridor, and Vulcan hurriedly followed. Chapter 406. The Final Enlightenment of the Stone Chamber. Second watch subscription. The first floor inside the holy mountain. Footsteps came. Two dwarves from the stone squad ran out from the west corridor. Strange, where are they? The dwarf named Unru asked. Another dwarf named Zuaya shook his head. Who knows? Then where did the noise come from? Andrew asked again. He and Wuaya have been walking along the corridor to the west, and have been walking. Suddenly, he heard the sound of the stone chamber moving behind him. The two felt nothing at first, but the voices sounded one after another, and the two panicked. So after discussing, they ran towards the stone room together, trying to see what happened. But the result was that when they rushed to the stone room, Suyi and the others had long since disappeared. Damn, where the hell did they go? And Lu cursed, secretly stepping into the stone room. He scanned his surroundings. Wuaya followed behind, glanced casually at the ground, and then he realized something was wrong. Wait a minute. There seems to be something wrong, and Lu turned around and looked at Wuaya. What's going on? Wuaya pointed to the ground. There are only the footprints of the two of us here. Could it be that those people didn't come here at all? Lu glanced at the ground and frowned immediately, because the ground under his feet is really the same as what Wuaya said, only the footprints of the two of them. This is very weird. The two still clearly remembered that there was only one passage to enter the interior of the holy mountain. It is the way to this stone chamber. In other words, even though Suyi and the others followed behind the two of them, they would definitely enter this stone room. But as long as you enter this stone room, there will definitely be footprints left behind. However, the problem now is that the footprints do not exist. What the hell is going on here? And Lu felt a little creepy compared to him. Wuya was much calmer. He tried to check the other corridors, and soon found the footprints left by Suyi and others enter and then exit. A total of 4 rows of footprints. After they entered, they returned to the stone chamber, but there was no footprint left in the stone chamber. Could it be that the stone chamber is moving? Wuya whispered and Lu spat. TCH, what are you talking about? How could the stone chamber move? But Wuya suddenly ran to the wall, pointed at the scratch and said, look at this. And Lu ran over, and seeing the scratches, his face immediately changed, moved. No wonder their footprints can't be seen in the stone room. What should we do now? Wuya was a little helpless and Lu gritted his teeth. The golden color on his chin trembled. Obviously he was not in a good mood. He has some regrets. I regret that I took Wuya to the front. This really seems to be a missed opportunity. After thinking for a while, Lu made a decisive decision. They can move the stone chamber. They must have found something in the stone chamber. Let's look for it and see if there is a mechanism or something. What Lu said was approved by Wuya, so the two men split into 2 groups and began to search for it on the 2nd floor. It has been 3 hours since Lan Lan and Gwyneth entered here. The two of them did not enter any of the corridors on the north and south sides, and they were still searching hard in the stone room, but it never came to fruition. Exhausted, Lan Lan found a place to sit down. There must be something wrong in a certain link. Gwyneth sighed softly. Maybe, the stone chamber above our heads seems to have not been touched for a long time. As soon as these words came out, Lan Lan, who was originally sitting, stood up abruptly. Repeat what you just said. Gwyneth looked at Lan Lan, who was a little excited, and couldn't help feeling confused. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Lan Lan's face was firm. You repeat what you said before. Gwyneth swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and did so. Maybe, the stone chamber above our heads seems to have been left untouched for a long time. As soon as the words fell, Lan Lan slapped her thigh. Damn, I know what's going on. Gwyneth didn't speak, waiting for Lan Lan's next words. The latter looked excited, and walked in front of Gwyneth. It's an elevator. The principle of the elevator is that the passage where the stone chamber is located is an elevator shaft. There is a stone chamber above our heads, so our stone chamber cannot be moved no matter what. Chapter 272. After all, Lan Lan took a deep breath. Let's go. Don't look for the mechanism anymore. Let's choose a corridor to go in. Gwyneth didn't seem to understand Lan Lan's words, and remained where she was. Seeing this, Lan Lan looked into Gwyneth's eyes. Believe me, in this stone room, either there is no mechanism, or it is useless to find the mechanism. Seeing Lan Lan's resolute attitude, Gwen nodded and followed behind Lan Lan. Lan Lan glanced at the south and north passages, and finally chose the north passage. Let's go here. As he said that, he hurried towards the north corridor, but in fact, in her heart, she was still full of regrets. According to certain design rules, the higher the number of layers, the better the reward. But now the 3rd floor is occupied by Suyishi. Lan Lan can only go to the 2nd floor. I only hope that there will be some clues about the Titans on the 2nd floor. The two of them went straight to the deepest part of the northern passage at high speed. The 3rd floor inside the holy mountain. It has been an hour since Suyi and Vulcan entered the only north corridor with unremitting efforts. The two finally reached the end of the tunnel here. A larger stone chamber appeared. Unlike the stone room just now, there are many things placed in the stone room. There are forging tables, various ores piled up into mountains, and even gems, blueprints, and various books. Could it be that the so-called comprehension is here? Vulcan sighed softly. Suya glanced around, but didn't find any passages, and nodded immediately. It should be. Cherish the time we have left. Vulcan understood, and immediately ran towards the bookshelf. There must be something he can learn from it. Chapter 407, The Hidden Passage. Vulcan went straight to the bookshelf to check the classics. Suya is naturally not interested in these. What he wants is only the Titans, or rather, some clues. So Suya searched for it in the stone room. Keep an eye on everything related to Titans, trying to find some clues from these things. It's a pity that everything around looks ordinary, and there are no obvious clues. Suya continued to walk forward, and continued to search on the other side. Vulcan had already collapsed in front of several bookshelves. Pick up the classics above and start reading. The above records are some forging methods, as well as rare blueprints. Vulcan was addicted at first glance, and immediately sat on the floor, watching intently. Suya didn't bother him, but just searched for the clues he wanted on the other side. Lan Lan and Gwyneth on the second floor of the Holy Mountain have also entered the stone room at this moment, looking at the furnishings of the stone room in front of them. Both of them were a little surprised. Here is the end of the Holy, Gwyneth muttered. Lan Lan didn't speak, just scanned everything in the stone room in front of her with her eyes. After a while, she stepped into the stone room and searched around. Gwyneth also followed. Like Vulcan, what she took a fancy to were books about blacksmithing. These things are of great use to her, so the two started working together. Gwen's began to look up books, while Lan Lan looked for the whereabouts of the Titans. This search took 5 days. After 5 days, Lan Lan checked almost the entire stone room, but to her regret, she didn't find anything about Titan. Even the clues are few and far between. I read some stories about Titans. According to the story, Titans are god-level beings. It has a very powerful power of divine punishment, and it has an extra damage bonus to everything in the world. However, in a great battle in ancient times, the Titans were defeated. A Titan was wounded and fell near the Holy Mountain of the Dwarf Kingdom. This is how the later Titans taught the dwarves how to forge equipment. Lan Lan carefully read this story 3 times, but I feel there are some flaws that cannot be ignored. First, the story never mentions what exactly the Titans were fighting to lead to their defeat. Second, the story doesn't say where the Titan went after he taught the dwarves how to forge equipment. These 2 points made Lan Lan very puzzled. She even tried asking Gwyneth, but when the latter heard the words, he just shook his head. It seems that she doesn't know whether these are deliberately concealed, or there are other undisclosed secrets. Lan Lan murmured in her heart in desperation. I had to search again, hoping to unlock these 2 secrets. The third floor inside the Holy Mountain. In the past few days, Vulcan has read a lot of books, almost read all the books he has never read here, and benefited a lot. And Suya also found the same story as Lan Lan. Even the questions are the same as Lan Lan fighting against the Titans. Even the race that can defeat the Titans, what is it? Angels are wrong. Titans are gods, and angels are also gods. The 2 races are theoretically in the same camp. Why should they kill each other? If this conjecture is true, then there must be someone else who defeated the Titans, and the strength and level of this race, or arms, should not be weaker than Titans. So who is it? Suya was puzzled with doubts. Suya continued to search, but when he was looking for it, Vulcan behind him let out a soft cry. What is this? Suya frowned, and hurriedly ran towards Vulcan's direction. Seeing Suya coming, Vulcan pointed to something in front of him and said, Leader, look at this. It seems to be a mechanism. Suya looked intently, and sure enough, he saw a hidden small button on the bookshelf. Thinking that there are no clues now, and the 7 days are coming soon, Suya gritted her teeth and looked at Vulcan. Why don't you press down and try? Vulcan agreed. So Suya pressed the small switch. There was only a click, and a passage suddenly appeared on the north wall of the stone room. It was pitch black inside, and it was unknown where it led. Vulcan and Suya were both stunned, and quickly ran towards the passage. But what they didn't know was that because of their action, they also opened the passage in the stone room on the second floor. And the first floor. Lan Lan, who was searching hard in the stone room on the second floor, suddenly saw a passage in the wall behind her, and was a little confused. What mechanism did I trigger? Lan Lan frowned. Gwyneth had also put down the books in her hands, and walked towards Lan Lan. What's going on with this channel? Gwyneth asked. Lan Lan shook her head. I don't know. What happened suddenly? Could it be that we triggered some mechanism? Gwyneth didn't answer because she didn't know if that was the reason. Do you want to go in and have a look? After a long time, Gwyneth spoke. Lan Lan stood outside the passage and hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth. Go in and have a look? Maybe you will find something new. With that said, she bears the brunt of it and walks into the passage. Seeing this, Gwyneth also followed the first floor inside the holy mountain, and Lu and Wuai also found the passage on the wall. The two looked at each other, and they were quite hesitant, but after thinking about the trade-offs, the two decided to go in and have a look. Humans are curious. This sudden passage is the source of their curiosity. They really want to know where it leads. Behind this passage, what will you encounter? What will you see? So, the two of them, one behind the other, also entered the passage. Chapter 408, Titan's Corpse. The passage is small and dark, but at the end of the passage, you can see the light. It was like fire. What the hell? Who built this holy mountain? How could it be so complicated? Wuai complained, and Lu didn't speak, just kept looking at the road under his feet. Soon, the two passed through the long passage and came to a magical place. The intense firelight shone from below and landed on the faces of the two of them. In addition, there is also a scorching air wave blowing towards the face, which makes the two people's expressions change. Is this the ground fire under the holy mountain? And Lu frowned, looking at the bubbling magma lake just below his feet. Chapter 273. He instinctively felt the slightest bit of fear. If it falls down by mistake, it will be burned to ashes in minutes. Look, what is that? Suddenly Wuai behind and Lu let out a soft cry, and Lu looked in the direction he pointed, and he found something above the magma lake. There are two bubbles suspended inside. One bubble is a hammer, and inside the other bubble appears to be a piece of armor. At first glance, the value of both things is extraordinary. This should be the reward left to us by the Titan God. And Lu said. The squinting eyes were full of greed. This is a treasure stored inside the holy mountain. Needless to say how precious it is. Wuai seemed to have noticed this too, and was eager to try it immediately. But how do we get there? And Lu glanced around, and couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed. Surrounded by a huge cave, there is no place to grab or climb, so how can they cross the gap in the middle and get the treasure in the bubble? Quickly think of a way. This is the 6th day we have been here, and we will leave here tomorrow. An urged. He didn't want the treasure to be in front of him, but he couldn't take it away. Wuai naturally knew this truth, and quickly thought about it, hesitant to get close to the magma lake. The temperature is too high. The two had no choice but to temporarily retreat into the passage to avoid the rising heat. The second floor of the holy mountain. Lan Lan and Gwyneth have also passed through the long passage and came to the sky above the magma lake. In front of them, there are also two bubbles. Inside a bubble is a forging hammer. It is full of patterns, very beautiful, and it is extraordinary. At first glance, Gwyneth fell in love with this hammer. After just one glance, if I can, I will definitely take the hammer. It must be a treasure left by the Titan God to the dwarves. At this moment, Lan Lan's gaze was fixed on another thing next to the hammer. On it was a statue of a gigantic giant. Seeing this, Lan Lan's breath became short of breath. My God, is that the template of the Titan's unit? My luck is too good. Although Lan Lan has never seen a real Titan, she has also seen many fictional Titans from movies in the civilization era, and all of them are huge giants, with tight muscles and extremely strong. It is somewhat similar to the stone statue in front of it, but the problem is, there is a magma lake under the two of them, the kind that is still steaming, and the distance from the passage to the bubble is at least 50 meters. How do I need to cross the distance of 50 meters to get the unit template? This has become Lan Lan's biggest problem now. The third floor inside the holy mountain. Suyi and Vulcan just passed through the dark passage and entered the magma lake area, but just after he came out, when Vulcan saw the scene in front of him, he immediately took a few steps back in shock. Oh my God, is that a real Titan? At the same time, Suyi also saw a giant floating above the magma lake. It is inappropriate to say giant. It should be said to be a giant. The height is about 10 meters. The muscles are tight, and the armor is simple to wear, but it looks extremely tough on the exposed skin. Complex magic lines are drawn golden, shining brightly, sparkling under the light of the magma lake. However, the giant seems to be dead with both eyes closed. A big hole was opened in the battle armor at the chest position, and the inside was severely damaged, which should be a fatal injury. Suyi took a few deep breaths, and threw a detection skill at the giant. Soon, the giant's information appeared in Suyi's mind. Titan, Tier 11 level. 5 HP. 0000 attack power. 75 defense power. 100,000 speed. 60 skill. Titan God Fist. Titan clenches his fist tightly, condensing the power of the gods on the fist, then swing towards the enemy. If it hits the enemy, it will cause huge damage. This skill ignores 50% of the enemy's defense power of Titan. Titan is a symbol of strength. Every 25% loss of maximum HP will trigger the effect of power of Titan. 100%. Power of Titan effect, attack power, defense power, and speed increase by 30%, and enter a berserk state. which lasts for 1 minute. Rage of the Titans. Titans gather the power of the gods to add a shield for themselves. The shield's strength is 100% of the Titan's maximum health. The duration is 5 minutes. Within 10 minutes, this skill can only be used once. Thorn Rebound. During the battle, every attack and being attacked will increase the anger value of the Titan. When the anger gauge is full, the Thorn Rebound skill will be triggered. Once this passive skill is triggered, any damage the Titan receives will be dealt with 80% bounce back. Warhammer. Titan's weapon is a Warhammer. Summoning a Warhammer will greatly increase the attack power, double the attack range, and deal a devastating blow to the enemy. Description. There are not many races born in the god realm, but they are extremely powerful, with unique defense and attack power. After reading the information introduction that appeared in his mind, the corners of Suyi's eyes twitched violently. Damn, it's really a Titan, but it's hiccup. Could it be the one who fell near the holy mountain of the Dwarf Kingdom? After teaching the dwarves to forge, he didn't actually leave, but died here. Chapter 409, Titan Soldier Template. Second watch for subscription. Not only Suyi, but even Vulcan has this idea at the moment. Couldn't this be the Titan who taught the dwarves how to forge? Vulcan exclaimed. Suyi shook her head. I don't know either. As he spoke, he turned his gaze to other places beside Titan. Sure enough, two things were found, wrapped in air bubbles. The one on the left is a cluster of light clusters, golden in color, exuding a somewhat dazzling light. The one on the right is a statue, also golden, shining brightly. Seeing the statue, Suyi looked a little excited because he is very clear that there are many templates for arms that exist in the form of statues. Is this statue in front of you the template of the Tier 11 Troop Titan? If so, then Suyi will get rich. He also looked at the attributes of the Titans just now. They are simply a group of powerful ones, stronger than a dragon. If it can be brought back and trained to produce tens of thousands of heads, then the Earth. Suyi is still walking sideways. Thinking of this, Suyi pointed in the direction of Titan. Did you see those two things? We should be able to take them away. Vulcan glanced at it and nodded, but soon, he spoke again. But how do we get there? There is a magma lake below, and you will die if you fall. Saying that, Vulcan pointed to his feet at least 100 meters high, but still feel the heat wave. It's terrible. Is there wood? Suyi laughed when he heard this, and patted Vulcan's shoulder. Are you confused? Don't forget, I am a man with a dragon. When Vulcan heard this, he was immediately ecstatic. That's right. Suyi is a man with a dragon. This matter can't bother him at all. So what are you waiting for? Get ready, Vulcan urged. Naturally, Suyi didn't hesitate, and touched the arms ring. Suddenly, a strong light flashed and appeared in front of Suyi blazingly. As soon as this guy appeared, he seemed to be affected by something, and quickly lowered his flight altitude. At the same time, he turned his head and looked in the direction of the Titan's corpse. Suyi could clearly see that there was a hint of fear in the fiery eyes that were not afraid of anything. That should be the deterrent power of the Titans. After all, he is also a member of the Protoss, a powerful group. Fortunately, this Titan is only in the form of a corpse. After observing it intensely for a while, it gradually became more courageous. Seeing this, Suyi hurriedly greeted Chilai. Don't look, take me to fly there. Blazingly tapped the huge faucet, and arrived in front of Suyi. The latter found the right timing, jumped out of the passage, and landed on Blazing's back without fail. Afterwards, he still flew in the direction of the Titan corpse from Blazing. Soon, one person and one dragon arrived at the designated location with quick hands and quick eyes. Suyi grabbed Tai's light group and statue in his hand. When the things are in hand and are about to fly back, suddenly Suyi caught a glimpse of something on Titan's right hand. It seemed to be a book. It's not very thick, and it's made of materials Suyi doesn't know. Perhaps this is why the magma, the reason why the sky above the lake has been preserved until now. Wait a minute, then fly back and get that thing in your hand. Suyi pointed to the book in Titan's hand. Feeling helpless, had no choice but to turn around and fly towards the book. Soon, the two sides approached. Suyi reached out and grabbed the book, trying to pull it out. The result was nothing. Not only that, the book was also hot, which made Suyi's hand tingle. Fuck, come again, Suyi ordered. At the same time, he took out a pair of gloves from the Lord's space and put them on. This glove is part of the archer's equipment, and it is inlaid with a lot of iron pieces. Presumably it can insulate Suyi from a lot of high temperature. Chapter 274. Then one person and one dragon experimented several times, but there was no effect. This made Suyi a little speechless. Come again, come again. He felt that there must be something extraordinary recorded in this book, so he must get it. Hard work pays off. After a dozen times of cooperating with Chilai, the book held by Titan was finally pulled out by Suyi. Hands-on, very heavy, as if the book is made of iron. Putting the book away, Suyi rode back to the passageway on Blazing. By the way, I took Blazing back into the unit ring. Go back and look again, the temperature here is too high, Suyi said as soon as he landed. This channel is close to the magma lake. And the temperature is really unbearable, Vulcan agreed. So the two of them followed a passage they came from and returned to the previous stone room. It's much color in here. Suyi put three things in front of the two of them, and then looked at them impatiently. The first is the light cluster power of forging description, a group of insights and understanding about forging from Titan, after merging with itself, will obtain the inheritance of the god of Titans, and then the understanding of forging will be improved to higher levels. Seeing this description, needless to say, this thing belongs to Vulcan. Suyi doesn't plan to change his job to be a blacksmith, so this thing is of no use to him. On the contrary, it was of extremely high value to Vulcan, and Vulcan was very happy, and took it with both hands. As soon as he got it in his hand, before he had time to check it, he heard the blob of light sink into his body and disappear. The next moment, Vulcan let out a cry of pain, covered his head with his hands, and sweated profusely. He only felt that a huge consciousness came to his mind. It was as if something had been forced into his brain. The pain was unbearable, very uncomfortable. Endless knowledge spread along that consciousness, and began to occupy Vulcan's whole body, overturned all his cognition. The pain lasted for about 3 minutes and ended, and when Vulcan got up again, he seemed to be a different person. There is a faint golden light coming out of the eyes, which makes people feel a little scalp numb. The most eye-catching thing should be the guy's bare and strong arms. A golden pattern appeared, which was the same as the fur on the Titan. Chapter 410, Diary of the Titan God. How do you feel? Suyi asked. Vulcan stood up and stretched his body. The bones in his body made the sound of popping beans. I feel like my strength has increased at least tenfold, Vulcan said. The golden light in his eyes flickered. Suyi also raised an eyebrow. 10 times the strength? Shouldn't this be the Titan's forging concept? Why did Vulcan's strength also increase along with it? Are there any other changes besides strength? Suyi asked again. Vulcan closed his eyes, felt himself, and soon opened his eyes again. Theory. Suddenly, my worldview as a blacksmith was subverted, and then reset. Hearing this, Suyi nodded in satisfaction. Fortunately, this is the most important and precious thing for Vulcan. Titans are the ancestors of blacksmiths, and the forging skills of dwarves are all taught by Titans. One can imagine how powerful Titan's forging skills are now. Vulcan has inherited Titan's forging technique, so his forging concepts and various experiences will rise to the same level as Titans. If you want to build equipment, the speed and efficiency will be greatly improved. Then Suyi asked Vulcan some other questions, and after making sure that this guy was okay, Ziochuan looked at the second thing. That's the giant statue. Throwing out the detection skill, the statue's information quickly appeared in Suyi's mind. Titan Arms Template, Level 11. Description: the giant race born in the God realm has a very powerful and destructive power. The template is in a broken state, and it must absorb enough energy to fully restore it. The current energy absorption is 10,000. When Suyi saw that this was indeed a template for the Titan troop, he was overjoyed, just stood up and danced. But when he saw the last sentence of the information introduction, he was stunned. What kind of ghost template is in a broken state and must absorb enough energy to fully restore the current energy absorption of 10,000? What does this mean? In other words, this is indeed the template for the Titan troop, but it doesn't work, at least not for the time being. It needs to absorb enough energy value of 1 million to completely restore the troop template. Only after the troop template is restored can it continue to be used. Suyi was stunned. He just said, isn't it identified template for an 11th level unit? How can it be so easy for him to find it? As a result, no surprises, this thing is useless, and it needs to be repaired with energy, and it can only be used after the repair is completed. Relieved? Really relieved? What kind of energy should be used to fully recover? Suyi was somewhat puzzled. The template information only said that 1 million units of energy are needed to repair it, but it didn't say what kind of energy is needed to repair it. This is difficult. God knows what kind of weird energy this thing will need, but there is no way to do it, so Suyi had to put the template of the Titan unit into the Lord's space first. Waiting. After returning to the star field, try slowly how to fill up the energy. Then, Suyi looked at the last thing, which was the iron book. Not big, like the size of a primary school Chinese textbook. The whole body exudes a deep luster of metal. Hands-on, very heavy. It has been a long time since it was taken off from the Titans until now. Therefore, the temperature above the iron book has almost dissipated. Suyi picked up the iron book, put it in his hand, and opened it gently. What I saw was lines of words that I had never seen before. Really never seen it. This happened several pages in a row. In desperation, Suyi had no choice but to pass the book to Vulcan to read. Can you understand the text? Suya asked. Vulcan glanced at it, and shook his head. This seems to be the text of the God Realm, Spirit World. Suya frowned after thinking about it. I was relieved Human Titan is from the God Realm. It is normal for him to use the characters of the God Realm to record some things. But the question now is, what should Suya do to understand the meaning of these words? Just when he was at a loss, Vulcan seemingly remembering something, he hurriedly said, wait a minute, I seem to have seen these words somewhere. Suya's expression changed, and he quickly looked at Vulcan. Don't worry, just think about it slowly. Vulcan did not speak, but closed his eyes and remembered soon. He opened his eyes again, pointed to the bookshelf behind him and said, no mistake, on the bookshelf over there are many books recorded in this language, and most importantly, there are translations for these books. Suya's eyes lit up, and he looked at his watch. There are still 10 hours left before the Holy Mountain is opened again. Let's go and translate the entire book and see what is written in it. Vulcan was also very curious. Especially after incorporating Titan's experience in forging, he began to feel more and more powerful about Titan. He is looking forward to exploring this mysterious race. So, the two quickly got up and ran towards the bookshelf. Then, in Vulcan's memory, he found some books that recorded the words of the God Realm. Open the book and check it. There is indeed a translation of the God Realm text in it. In order to speed up the efficiency, Suya took out a paper and pen, and then asked Vulcan to search and record it himself. Start translating this iron book snatched from the Titans. The cooperation between the two was a little rusty at first. But after 2 hours the two entered the rapid translation state. The content of this iron book is being gradually translated by Suya. What a magnificent story that was. Suya was a little stunned, and at the same time, his heart was full of fear because in this book, it is recorded in detail why the Proteus fell. Why did he, the Titan who landed on the Holy Mountain, appear here? Chapter 411 End of Enlightenment. Leaving the Holy Mountain. Just when Suya and Vulcan were cooperating to translate the Iron Book, Lan and Gwyneth on the second floor of the Holy Mountain have found a way to get bubbles. I saw Lan open her arms ring. A plant-based unit appeared from it. There are many types of this type of arms, but because of their slow movement speed, or even being unable to move at all, there are very few lords who actually train this type of arms. Unfortunately, Lan is one of them now. The plant unit she took out from the unit ring is the ghost vine. The most notable feature of this thing is that it can grow its own vines and extend them far away. Now, it is just right to help Lan and Gwyneth get the two bubbles in front of them. The ghost vine was summoned and landed beside Lan. Root firmly grasped the wall to stabilize his body, then stretched out long vines and stretched forward. Chapter 275. But when the vines stretched out of the aisle, they encountered intense heat emerging from the magma lake. There was only a chirping sound, and the green leaves on the ghost vines were quickly evaporated from the water, and then withered, turning into withered yellow leaves, which drifted down. The ghost vine let out a shrill scream, and the protruding vine couldn't help but retract. Seeing this, Lan hurriedly stopped it. Hold on, hook those two bubbles over. The ghost vine endured the severe pain and stretched the vine towards the two bubbles tens of meters away. Unfortunately, when the vines walked halfway, they couldn't stand the high temperature, so they burst into flames, and soon, the vines were burnt and fell from midair. The HP of the ghost vine has also dropped by 1/3. In desperation, Lan had no choice but to let the ghost vine pull back the remaining branches, and then began to heal and recover. Seeing this scene, Gwyneth felt a little disappointed. It seems that we can't get this thing. Lan clenched her fists tightly and gritted her silver teeth. No, we will definitely get it. She was sure that the statue in front, even if it wasn't a model of the 11th tier soldier Titan, it must be a model of a not lower tier soldier. Faced with such a good thing, there is no way to give up. So Lan took out all the ghost vines from her arms ring and put them in the open space of the aisle, then ordered these guys to wrap the branches together. The ghost vine complied, and soon in front of Lan and Gwen's, a super long vine with 6 vines intertwined together appeared. In order to prolong the time for this vine to resist the high temperature, Lan also specially put the Zuanbing sword into these vines. In this way, the Zuanbing sword can continuously release low temperature, which can have a cooling effect on the vines of the ghost vine. After everything was ready, this super long vine stretched out from Lan's side, and then pierced towards the two bubbles with lightning speed. The speed of the vine was extremely fast, and with a whoosh, it appeared tens of meters away. The high temperature of the magma lake has risen, and the leaves around the oversized vines have been ignited. But at this moment, the tips of the vines had wrapped around the two bubbles and began to retract. Few. Under the high temperature, the vines were still ignited. The ghost vines behind Lan kept screaming, "Come on, it's almost there, it'll be cool soon." Lan shouted finally, Under the wrap of the sparks, the oversized vines successfully returned to the passage, put 2 bubbles in front of Lan Lan and Gwyneth. As for the ghost vines, 2 of them turned into a withered vine and fell to the ground because the burning time was too long, and the life value was cleared to 0. Lan Lan sighed softly, and picked up the statue brought back by the ghost vine. Her breathing became a little short, and she quickly threw a detection skill. Soon, the information about the statue appeared in Lan Lan's mind the next moment after seeing it. Lan Lan was a little speechless. This really isn't a template for a Titan's arms, it's a template for a unit named Iron Armored Guard with a rank of 9th level 9. Can't help being a little speechless, but it's better than nothing. You must know that although Lan Lan is now one of the few powerful lords in northwest China, her highest rank is only 8th. Now that I can get a tier 9 and 9 arms, it is not a small gain. Right, and Gwyneth has already picked up the hammer she fancied. Judging by her appearance, she should be very satisfied with both bubbles in hand. There is no need for them to stay here anymore. Turn around and walk towards the stone room behind you. On the 3rd floor of the Holy Mountain, Suyi and Vulcan are still struggling. Frantically searched for information and translated the contents of the Iron Book. After more than 9 hours of continuous struggle, 2/3 of the content of Iron Book has been translated. Only the last dozen pages are left. But now, the time for the Holy Mountain to open again is approaching. It seems that the content of this Iron Book is destined to be incompletely translated. There was a clicking sound. The passage into the Holy Mountain has been opened again. Suyi had no choice but to stand up, close the Iron Book, and throw it into the Lord's space. Come on, we should leave, Suyi said. Vulcan sighed lightly. We were able to translate the whole book just a little bit. Suyi shook his head. I've already read it. There are only so many words and phrases in the God realm. After we go back, we can compare the translated texts and we should be able to roughly know the story behind. Hearing this, Vulcan felt a little relieved and got up, and walked towards the previous, elevator stone room with Suyi. At the same time, the stubborn stone team on the 1st floor of the Holy Mountain has entered the passage to leave the Holy Mountain. The 2 were forced to go in because the stone chamber of the elevator was descending, and they were afraid that they would be buried forever, so they had no choice but to enter the passageway. Then came Lan Lan and Gwyneth, who also entered the elevator stone room after descending. It also entered the passage to leave the Holy Mountain. In the end are Suyi and Vulcan. Chapter 412. Suyi, guess, second more for subscription. The 2 descended in the elevator stone room, and finally joined other people in the passageway leaving the Holy Mountain. When we met again, everyone's eyes were extremely complicated, especially Lan Lan. Now that she knew the entire way of playing the Holy Mountain, she couldn't help but slander Suyi. In her heart it was this guy who was the first to discover the secret of the elevator stone room, but didn't tell himself. It caused me to miss the opportunity, and finally I could only reach the 2nd floor of the Holy Mountain. Looking at Lan Lan and Gwyneth's somewhat resentful eyes, Suyi touched his nose. Let's go back, don't close the door later. After saying that, Suyi strode towards the passage ahead. Vulcan quickly followed. Lan Lan snorted lightly, and followed along with Gwyneth. As for Wu Aya and Anu of the stone team, they are the most stupid and unlucky among all the people who entered the Holy Mountain this time. It's worth mentioning that because the 2 of them didn't have giant dragons or plant units, they didn't get the treasures in those 2 bubbles. In the end, after entering the body, the only thing they get is probably the knowledge piled on the bookshelves in the stone room. Sad. Suyi walked in the front, and Lan Lan, who followed behind, seemed to be out of breath, and quickly followed Suyi's pace. Big villain, judging by your appearance, you should get that thing, Lan Lan said a little sourly. Suyi cast her a glance. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, and slowly uttered 2 words. Guess, Lan. Lan stamped her feet angrily. If she can beat Suyi, she will definitely beat this guy into pig's head. This is so irritating too. However, judging by Suyi's appearance, he must have got it. Oh my god, the 11th tier unit. Just missed him. Now Lan Lan is full of regrets, regretting why I didn't follow Suyi closely at first. If he had been following Suyi like brown sugar, he wouldn't have ended up with the current result. The one in his heart, hate. With the experience when he came in, after entering the passage, the group of people went straight to the passage at the fastest speed run outside. Therefore, this time everyone was not tempered by the high temperature. Not long after, they came to the entrance of the Holy Mountain. The stone gate here has been opened, and the dazzling light comes from outside the stone gate. Suyi was the first to go out, and what he felt head-on was a cool breeze. It's very comfortable to blow on. This is a feeling that will never be found inside the Holy Mountain. The Dwarf King and some dwarves who maintain the Holy Mountain have been waiting outside for a long time. Seeing that the 666 guys who entered the interior of the Holy Mountain came back safely, they were all relieved. The Dwarf King coughed lightly. Everyone who is lucky enough to enter the Holy Mountain, I think you have all got what you want, no matter whatever it is. I hope that you can cherish them well." While talking, the Dwarf King purposely stayed on Suyi and Lan for a while. Looking at the two of them made my heart a little creepy. He even thought to himself, this guy must have discovered the intentions of the two of them. Of course, this kind of thing will not be said clearly then. With some instructions from the Dwarf Kingdom, the trip to the Holy Mountain came to a successful conclusion. The 666 guys who entered the Holy Mountain began to go back to their respective homes and find their own mothers. The Dwarf King stood at the entrance, watching the six of them leave. His cloudy old eyes narrowed slightly. "Do you think he will succeed?" Suddenly, a figure sounded behind the Dwarf King. It was the old dwarf from before, leaning on crutches. He appeared behind the Dwarf King at some point. Hearing the words, the Dwarf King was expressionless, and just said indifferently, "Maybe. I have already investigated his identity. Among the human lords, he is almost the strongest group. With his management, maybe the Titan can regain his identity in the world. When the time comes, the mission of our dwarves will be completed." The old dwarf sighed and did not speak on this side. Suyi and Vulcan left the Holy Mountain and take the train back to Vulcan's home. After returning here, Vulcan asked someone to prepare some food. After eating and drinking with Suyi, they began to sleep soundly, counting. They have not slept for 7 days. It's not that he can't sleep, but in the Holy Mountain, who would spend his precious time sleeping? Anyway, Vulcan wouldn't, neither will Suyi. The two slept for 3 full days before waking up leisurely. Suyi got up from the top and moved his hands and feet. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.